Chapter 1. The echoes of St. Anselm's. The wind howled across the Eldermoor hills, carrying a chill that seemed to whisper secrets as it swept through the narrow lanes of the quaint English town. Hercule Poirot, bundled in his immaculate overcoat, stepped from the train onto the platform of Eldermoor Station, his polished shoes gleaming under the gas lamp's flicker. The evening was cloaked in a silver mist, the kind that blurred the edges of reality, and Poirot's green eyes gleamed with anticipation. A letter, delivered to his London flat 3 days prior, had summoned him here, an anonymous missive sealed with a wax emblem of a cross entwined with ivy, its words both elegant and ominous, the whispers of St. Anselm's Kill. "Come quickly, Monsieur Poirot, before another falls." His little gray cells, ever eager for a puzzle, had propelled him to this remote corner of Devon, where St. Anselm's Cathedral loomed as a Gothic sentinel over the town-got Captain Hastings. Ever the loyal companion followed, his tweed cap tilted. Against the wind, his face a mix of curiosity and unease. "Poirot, this place gives me the shivers," he said, his breath visible in the damp air. "An anonymous letter about murderous whispers? Sounds like a ghost story, not a case. Are you sure we're not chasing shadows?" Poirot's mustache twitched, a faint smile curling beneath it. "Shadows, mon ami? None. It is the truth that hides in shadows, and Hercule Poirot chases truth. The letter, it is too precise to be a jest. St. Anselm's holds a mystery, and we shall unravel it with method." A horse-drawn carriage awaited, its driver a gaunt man with eyes like polished flint, who introduced himself as Mr. Finch, the cathedral's groundskeeper. "Monsieur Poirot, Captain Hastings," he said, his voice low and clipped. "The Dean expects you. There's been trouble." The carriage rattled through Eldermoor's cobbled streets, past ivy-clad cottages and a silent marketplace, until the cathedral's spires pierced the mist, their stone gargoyles glaring down like guardians of forgotten. Secrets.st. Anselm's Cathedral was a masterpiece of Gothic splendor, its arched windows glowing with the amber of candlelight, its facade carved with saints and vines that seemed to writhe in the dusk. The Whispering Gallery, famed for its acoustic quirk where a whisper could travel across its circular stone chamber, was the heart of the cathedral's mystique. As Poirot and Hastings stepped into the nave, the air grew heavy with the scent of incense and old stone, and a low hum of voices echoed from above, where the gallery curved like a watchful eye. Canon Edmund Gray, a wiry man with a nervous tic in his left eye, greeted them, his cassock slightly askew. "Monsieur Poirot, thank God you're here," he said, his voice trembling. "Sir Rowland Haverford, our patron, was found dead this morning in the Whispering Gallery. Murdered, they say. I didn't send the letter, but I'm grateful it brought you." Poirot's gaze sharpened, noting the canon's agitation. "Murder, Monsieur Gray? Tell me all, s'il vous plaît." "The letter speaks of whispers. Do they relate?" Gray's hands fidgeted with his prayer beads. "The gallery. It's a strange place. Voices carry even whispers. Sir Rowland was found with a note in his hand, and, well, you'll see. Follow me." They ascended a spiral staircase, its iron railing cold under Poirot's gloved hand, to the Whispering Gallery, a circular chamber high above the nave, its walls smooth and unadorned, designed to amplify the faintest sound. The floor was a mosaic of crosses and ivy, and at its center lay a chalk outline where Sir Rowland's body had been. A constable stood guard, his face pale, and Poirot knelt, his torch sweeping the tiles, where a single raven feather lay, its black sheen stark against the stone. "Curio," Poirot murmured, pocketing the feather. "A feather, not native to this place. A sign, perhaps?" Hastings shivered, his torch casting jittery shadows. "By Jove, Poirot, this place is eerie. Look at these walls, they seem to listen." And that feather reminds me of a warning. Poirot nodded, his mind racing. A warning, oui, or a signature? The letter spoke of whispers that kill. Let us see what Sir Rowland held. Canon Gray produced a crumpled note, its script matching the anonymous letter. The gallery speaks, but lies. Poirot's pulse quickened as he examined it, noting the ink's fresh sheen, suggesting recent authorship. The gallery, it is no mere backdrop. Hastings, it is a stage for murder. The constable, a young man named Harris, recounted the scene. Sir Rowland, a robust man of 60, was found at dawn, his neck bruised, a faint smile on his lips, as if he'd heard something beguiling before death. No weapon was found, but a faint scent of almonds lingered, hinting at poison. Poirot's eyes gleamed as he tested the gallery's acoustics, whispering, "The truth hides in whispers," and hearing his voice echo back from the opposite wall, clear as a bell. "Remarkable," he said, turning to Gray. "This gallery, it amplifies secrets. Tell me, who was with Sir Rowland last night?" Gray hesitated, his tic worsening. "He dined with us Lady Margaret, his widow, Dr. Victor Langston, an archaeologist, Miss Sylvia Wren, a journalist, and Mr. Thomas Vale, our verger. They left the deanery at 10, but Sir Rowland stayed, saying he wanted to pray in the gallery." Poirot's gaze narrowed. "Alone, you say?" "And yet," someone whispered death. "Introduce me to these players, Monsieur Gray." In the deanery, a cozy room of fly. Oak panels and flickering candles, Poirot met the suspects. Lady Margaret Haverford, a statuesque woman in her 50s, her auburn hair pinned elegantly, sat with tear-streaked cheeks, clutching a lace handkerchief. "My husband was devoted to St. Anselm's," she said, her voice breaking. "He spoke of a relic, the Anselm chalice. He believed it held divine power. Who would do this? Dr. Victor Langston, a wiry man with a hawkish nose and ink-stained fingers, adjusted his spectacles. Sir Rowland was reckless, poking into cathedral secrets. I'm here to study relics, not chase myths. His death is tragic, but unsurprising. Miss Sylvia Wren, a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s with a notebook ever present, smirked faintly. A murder in a whispering gallery? My readers will eat this up. Sir Rowland was cagey, always muttering about treasures. I saw him arguing with Vale last night. Mr. Thomas Vale, the verger, stood rigid, his gray eyes like slate. I argued with Sir Rowland about cathedral repairs, nothing more. I heard no whispers, only prayers. Poirot observed their tells, Margaret's trembling hands, Langston's defensive tone, Wren's probing gaze, Vale's stoic silence. Merci, he said, his voice smooth. Each of you knows more than you say. The gallery, it hears all. After dismissing them, Poirot returned to the gallery, his torch sweeping the walls. He paused at a spot where the mosaic's ivy seamed, misaligned, revealing a faint seam. With a gentle press, a panel clicked open, exposing a concealed alcove. Inside lay a brass key, its head shaped like a cross with ivy tendrils, matching the letter seal. A faint scratch on the alcove's edge suggested recent use. Voila, Poirot murmured, holding the key aloft. A clue, Hastings, to unlock the gallery's secrets. The chalice, perhaps, is not a myth. Hastings gasped, his torch trembling. A hidden key. Do you think it's tied to the murder? Certainement, Poirot said, pocketing the key. The chalice, the whispers, the feather, they weave a tapestry. Someone guards or seeks this relic. As they descended, a faint whisper echoed from the gallery, unintelligible but chilling, like a voice from the stone itself. Poirot paused, his ears straining, but the sound faded, replaced by the wind's howl outside. The gallery speaks, Hastings, he said, and we shall make it confess. Back in the deanery, Poirot questioned Canon Gray further, noting his reluctance to discuss the chalice. "It's a legend," Gray stammered. "A golden cup with sapphires," said to grant divine insight. "Stolen centuries ago. Sir Roland was obsessed with it." "Obsessed, oui," Poirot said, "and perhaps killed for it. Tell me, where might such a relic hide?" Gray pointed to the cathedral's library. "Old records might mention it, but they're restricted." Poirot's eyes gleamed. Restricted, yet not beyond Hercule Poirot. "We shall visit this library, but first we watch our players." That night, Poirot and Hastings dined with the guests, the table laden with roast pheasant and claret. Lady Margaret spoke of Sir Roland's charity, her voice heavy with grief. Langston lectured on Viking influences in the cathedral's design, his eyes flicking to Poirot. Wren scribbled notes, her questions sharp, while Vale served in silence, his movements precise. Poirot tested them, mentioning the chalice casually, noting Margaret's flinch, Langston's tightened jaw, Wren's raised brow, and Vale's stillness. As dessert was served, a delicate lemon souffle, a sudden crash echoed from the nave. Rushing out, they found a candelabrum toppled, its candles scattered, a raven feather glinting among them. Poirot's torch revealed fresh scratches on the base, suggesting sabotage. "The watcher moves, Hastings," he said, pocketing the feather. "They know we are close." The chapter closed with Poirot standing in the nave, the brass key in his hand, the cathedral's spires silhouetted against the starry sky. The feather's discovery and the key's reveal were triumphs, marking progress in the mystery. The whispered threat and the candelabrum's fall urged him toward the library, where the chalice's secrets awaited, and Poirot's resolve hardened, ready to pierce the echoes of St. Anselm's. Chapter 2. The Chalice's Shadow. The morning mist clung to Eldermore like a reluctant spectre, its tendrils curling around the spires of St. Anselm's Cathedral as Hercule Poirot stepped into the nave, the brass key with its ivy-entwined cross heavy in his gloved hand. The murder of Sir Roland Haverford in the Whispering Gallery, the anonymous letter warning of whispers that kill, the raven feather found beside the chalk-out line, and the cryptic note clutched in the victim's hand. The gallery speaks. But lies had ignited Poirot's little gray cells. The cathedral's denizens, Canon Edmund Gray's nervous tics, Lady Margaret Haverford's veiled grief, Dr. Victor Langston's archaeological zeal, Miss Sylvia Wren's probing questions, and Mr. Thomas Vale's stoic silence wove a tapestry of suspicion. The toppled candelabrum and its accompanying feather hinted at a watcher's presence, and Canon Gray's mention of the Anselm chalice, a legendary relic tied to divine insight and betrayal, beckoned Poirot to the cathedral's library. His green eyes gleamed with resolve, eager to uncover the chalice's shadow. Captain Hastings, bundled in a woolen scarf, joined him, his torch casting a golden glow across the nave's stone pillars. "Poirot, this chalice business sounds like a medieval fairy tale," he said, his voice echoing faintly. "A golden cup granting divine visions? And that key you found, do you think it unlocks something in the library? After that candelabrum crash, I'm expecting more tricks." Poirot's mustache twitched, a spark of amusement in his gaze. "Tricks, mon ami? The watcher plays them, but Hercule Poirot is no fool. The chalice, it is no mere tale, it is the heart of this murder. The key, it unlocks more than doors, it unlocks truth. To the library with vigilance." The cathedral's library was a vaulted chamber tucked behind the cloisters, its oak shelves sagging under the weight of ancient tomes, their leather spines cracked like the skin of forgotten saints. The air was thick with the scent of dust and hay. Wax and narrow windows let in slivers of morning light, illuminating motes that danced like whispers made visible. Canon Gray led them inside, his fingers twitching as he lit a candelabrum, its flames casting flickering shadows of crosses and ivy across the walls. "This library holds centuries of records," Gray said, his voice strained. The chalice, its history is here, but it's restricted. Sir Rowland spent hours poring over these texts, obsessed with finding it. Poirot's gaze swept the room, noting a heavy oak desk carved with ivy motifs, its surface cluttered with quills and yellowed. Manuscripts. Restricted, Monsieur Gray? Yet secrets, they find a way to speak. Show me where Sir Rowland worked. Gray pointed to a corner alcove, its shelves lined with medieval chronicles. Poirot's gloved fingers traced the spines, pausing on a ledger. Bound in faded crimson, its cover embossed with a cross entwined with ivy, matching the key's design. He opened it, revealing pages of spidery script detailing the Anselm chalice, a golden cup encrusted with sapphires, crafted in 1098 for St. Anselm's relics, rumored to grant divine insight to the pure, but cursed with betrayal for the greedy. A passage from 1623 caught his eye. The chalice was stolen by Brother Alaric, a monk who vanished into the moors, pursued by whispers of doom. Voila, Poirot murmured, his pulse quickening. The chalice, it is no myth. It's theft. It sows discord even now. Hastings peered over his shoulder, his torch trembling. By Jove, Poirot, a cursed relic stolen 400 years ago? Do you think Sir Rowland was killed over it? Certainement, Poirot said, turning the page. Sir Rowland sought the chalice, and someone ensured he never found it. The note in his hand, it warns of lies in the gallery's whispers. As he spoke, the library door creaked open, and Lady Margaret Haverford entered, her gray silk dress, rustling, her auburn hair catching the candlelight. Her eyes, red-rimmed from grief, fixed on the ledger. Monsieur Poirot, she said, her voice a fragile thread, you're digging into Rowland's obsession. He believed the chalice would redeem our family's name, tarnished by old scandals. Did you find something? Poirot's gaze softened, but his tone was probing. Madame, your husband's quest led to his death. This ledger speaks of a theft. And a curse. Did he share his plans with you? Her hands trembled, clutching her handkerchief. He was secretive, saying only that the chalice was near, hidden in the cathedral. He heard whispers guiding him, he said. I thought them fancies. Whispers, oui, Poirot said, noting her hesitation. The gallery amplifies them, and perhaps they led him to danger. Who else knew of his search? Dr. Langston, she said, her voice faltering. Rowland funded his excavations, but they argued often. Langston wanted the chalice for a museum. Poirot nodded, suspecting her grief masked deeper knowledge. Merci, madame. Return to the deanery, and fear not Hercule Poirot will find the truth. As Lady Margaret departed, her steps hurried, Poirot examined the desk, finding a faint indentation in the wood, shaped like the brass key. He inserted it, and a hidden drawer sprang open, revealing a vellum map fragment, its edges charred, depicting a section of the cathedral's crypt with a cross marked at its center. A faint inscription read, "The saint's gaze guards the hour." Truth! By Jove! Hastings exclaimed, his eyes wide. A map to the crypt. This must lead to the chalice, Poirot. But why the burnt edges? A warning, perhaps, Poirot said, pocketing the fragment. Someone sought to destroy this clue, yet failed. The crypt, it calls us. As they prepared to leave, a shadow flickered across the window, and a low, unintelligible whisper echoed through the library, as if the walls themselves spoke. Hastings spun, his torch sweeping the shelves, but found nothing. Good Lord, Poirot, did you hear that? Like the gallery's whispers, but here. Poirot's ears strained, his mind racing. The watcher, Hastings. They follow us, leaving whispers to taunt or guide. We must be cautious. They returned to the deanery for luncheon, where the other suspects were gathered, the air thick with tension. Dr. Victor Langston sat at the table, his hawkish features sharp as he sliced into a roast quail. Monsieur Poirot, he said, his tone clipped, you're stirring up dust in the library. Sir Rowland's death was a tragedy, not a treasure hunt. The chalice is a myth. Poirot's smile was enigmatic. A myth, Monsieur Langston? Yet your excavations, funded by Sir Rowland, sought it. What did you find in the cathedral's stones? Langston's spectacles glinted. Pottery, coins, nothing divine. Sir Rowland's obsession was his downfall, not my work. Miss Sylvia Wren, her notebook open, leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. Obsession makes a good story. Dr. Langston, I heard Sir Rowland arguing with you in the cloisters last week. Something about keeping it hidden. Care to elaborate? Langston's jaw tightened. Journalist nonsense. We discussed funding. Nothing more. Mr. Thomas Vale, serving tea, remained silent, his gray eyes unreadable, but his hands paused briefly at Wren's words. Canon Gray, at the table's head, fidgeted with his napkin, his tic pronounced. Please, let's not bicker, he said. Sir Rowland's death is a wound to us all. Poirot observed Vertel's Langston's defensiveness, Wren's probing, Vale's stillness, Gray's unease. Mesdames et messieurs, he said, his voice steady, the chalice casts a long shadow. Someone knows its secrets, and Sir Rowland paid the price. Speak, if you wish to unburden your heart. The guests fell silent, their glances darting, but none spoke. As luncheon ended, a sudden organ blast erupted from the cathedral, its notes, jarring and discordant, echoing through the deanery. Poirot and Hastings rushed to the nave, finding the organ loft empty, its keys still trembling as if played by an unseen hand. A folded note lay on the bench, its script matching the watcher's. The whispers lead below. Beside it was another raven feather, its sheen stark in the dim light. The watcher strikes again, Poirot said, pocketing the note and feather. This organ, it was no accident. The crypt, Hastings it is, where we go next. Hastings shivered, clutching his torch. Below? That sounds like a trap, Poirot. First a candelabrum, now an organ. What's next? A trap, oui, Poirot said, his voice calm, but one we shall turn against its maker. The map fragment points to the crypt, and the whispers guide us. Back in his room, Poirot spread the map fragment, the brass key, and the two raven. Feathers on a table, their clues intertwining. The ledger's tale of theft, the note's warning of lies, the whisper's menace. He penned a note, listing the suspect's motives. Gray's nervous secrecy, Margaret's hidden knowledge, Langston's ambition, Wren's curiosity, Vale's silence. The crypt, he suspected, held the next piece of the puzzle, but the watchers. Presence loomed dot. He followed Langston discreetly, watching as he lingered in the cloisters, examining a stone cross with intense focus. Poirot whispered to Hastings, his interest in the cathedral's stones, it is too keen. We must watch him closely. The chapter closed with Poirot standing in the nave, the vellum map fragment in his hand, the cathedral's organ pipes glinting in the candlelight. The map's discovery and the watcher's note were triumphs, marking progress in the mystery. The organ's blast and Langston's suspicious behavior urged him toward the crypt, where the chalice's shadow awaited, and Poirot's resolve hardened, ready to silence the whispers of St. Anselm's. Chapter 3. The crypt's whisper, the dawn light filtered through the mist shrouding Eldermore, casting a ghostly glow over St. Anselm's Cathedral as Hercule Poirot stood in the nave, the vellum map fragment in his gloved hand, its charred edges. A silent warning. The map, discovered in the cathedral's library alongside the brass key with ivy tendrils, pointed to a cross-marked tomb in the crypt, inscribed with, "The saint's gaze guards the truth." Sir Rowland Haverford's murder in the Whispering Gallery. The anonymous letter warning of whispers that kill, the raven feathers, and the note, "The gallery speaks." But lies, wove a tapestry of intrigue around the Anselm chalice, a golden relic stolen in 1623 by Brother Alaric. The organ's discordant blast and the watcher's note, the whispers lead below, confirmed the crypt as the next stage, while Canon Edmund Gray's nervous tics, Lady Margaret Haverford's veiled grief, Dr. Victor Langston's archaeological zeal, Miss Sylvia Wren's probing questions, and Mr. Thomas Vale's stoic silence deepened the web of suspicion. Poirot's little gray cells thrummed, eager to pierce the crypt's secrets. Captain Hastings, clutching his torch against the morning chill, joined him, his face a mix of anticipation and unease. "Poirot, the crypt sounds like a proper dungeon," he said, his voice echoing in the nave. "After that organ stunt and the candelabrum crash, I'm expecting another trap. This chalice business, do you think it's really down there?" Poirot's mustache twitched, his green eyes gleaming with resolve. "A trap, mon ami? The watcher sets them, but Hercule Poirot navigates with method. The chalice, it casts a shadow over this murder, and the crypt holds its secrets. The map, it guides us below, where whispers may speak truth." The crypt's entrance lay behind the altar, a heavy oak door carved with crosses and ivy, its iron hinges groaning as cannon. Gray unlocked it, his hands trembling. "The crypt is ancient," he said, his voice low. "Tombs of bishops and knights, some untouched for centuries. Be careful, Monsieur Poirot, it's a labyrinth." The staircase descended into darkness, its stone steps slick with damp, the air heavy with the scent of earth and decay. Poirot's torch cut through the gloom, revealing a maze of sarcophagi, their stone lids carved with effigies of robed figures, their eyes staring blankly. The map's cross marked a tomb in the crypt's eastern alcove, and Poirot led the way, his cane tapping rhythmically, while Hastings followed, his torch casting jittery shadows of crosses on the walls. "By Jove," Hastings whispered, his voice muffled by the stone. "This place feels alive, Poirot. Those whispers from the gallery, do you think they echo down here?" Poirot paused, his ears straining. A faint murmur, like a sigh from the stone, rippled through the crypt, too soft to discern. "The whispers, Hastings, they follow us. The cathedral, it speaks in shadows." They reached the eastern alcove, where a massive tomb stood, its lid carved with a knight clutching a cross, ivy tendrils curling around it, matching the brass key's design. The map's cross aligned with the tomb's center, and Poirot's fingers traced the carving, finding a faint seam. With a gentle press, the seam clicked, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside lay a locked iron box, its surface etched with a chalice entwined with ivy. The brass key fit perfectly, and with a turn, the box opened, revealing a coded scroll, its parchment brittle but intact, inscribed with, "The saint's gaze guards the truth." "Voila," Poirot murmured, his pulse quickening as he unrolled. The scroll, a clue, Hastings, to the chalice's hiding place. The saint's gaze, perhaps the cathedral's windows? Hastings peered at the scroll, his torch trembling. A coded message. But what's this about a saint's gaze? And that box, it's like something out of a treasure hunt. Before Poirot could respond, footsteps echoed in the crypt, and Dr. Victor Langston appeared, his spectacles glinting in the torchlight, his notebook clutched tightly. "Monsieur Poirot," he said, his voice sharp, "you're poking into sacred ground. The crypt's relics are my study. What have you found?" Poirot's gaze narrowed, noting Langston's intensity. "Relics, Monsieur Langston? Or the Anselm chalice, which Sir Rowland sought? Your knowledge of this crypt, it is precise. Did you follow us?" Langston's jaw tightened. "I'm an archaeologist, not a spy. I've mapped these tombs for years. Sir Rowland funded my work, but he was reckless, chasing myths. That box, what's in it?" "A step toward truth," Poirot said, slipping the scroll into his coat. Return to the nave, monsieur, and leave the crypt to Hercule Poirot. As Langston retreated, his steps reluctant, a low rumble shook the crypt, and a stone slab in the passage ahead began to slide, threatening to seal them in. Poirot grabbed Hastings, pulling him back as dust billowed, the slab crashing shut with a deafening thud. His torch revealed fresh chisel marks on the slab's edges, evidence of sabotage, and a raven feather lay beside it, its sheen stark in the gloom. Good Lord, Poirot! Hastings gasped, coughing. That was close. Another trap, and that feather again. The watcher's at it, isn't it? Oui, Poirot said, pocketing the feather. The watcher grows bold, but their boldness betrays them. This slab, it was meant to deter us, yet we have the scroll. Poirot examined the slab, finding a hidden lever concealed in a niche, its surface scratched as if recently used. With a pull, the slab creaked open, revealing a narrow passage leading back to the nave. Quickly, mon ami, he said, leading the way. The crypt yields its secrets, but danger walks with us. They emerged into the nave, where the morning light streamed through the stained glass windows, casting kaleidoscopic patterns of saints and crosses. Canon Gray awaited, his face pale with alarm. Monsieur Poirot, we heard a crash. What happened? A test, Monsieur Gray, Poirot said, his tone calm but piercing. The crypt guards its truths, and someone guards it fiercely. Tell me, who has access to these passages? Gray's tic worsened, his voice faltering. Only the verger, Mr. Vale. And I, the crypt's locked to others, but Sir Rowland had a key. He was always exploring. A key, oui? Poirot said, holding up the brass key. Like this one, perhaps? Your cathedral. It is a maze of secrets. As Gray stammered, Miss Sylvia Wren approached, her notebook open, her eyes sharp. Monsieur Poirot, you've been in the crypt? I heard rumors of hidden chambers. Did you find anything juicy from my readers? Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Juicy, Mademoiselle Wren? The truth is not a fruit to be plucked so easily. You seek a story, but perhaps you know more of Sir Rowland's explorations? Wren's smirk was sly. I know he was obsessed with the chalice. I saw him sketching crosses in the cloisters, muttering about sacred hiding places. Maybe he found something someone didn't want shared. Perhaps, Poirot said, noting her keen observation. Return to the deanery, mademoiselle, and write with care. As Wren departed, Poirot gathered the guests in the deanery's dining hall, its walls adorned with tapestries of St. Anselm's. Miracles. Lady Margaret sat quietly, her grief a quiet storm, while Mr. Thomas Vale served coffee, his movements precise, but his eyes guarded. Dr. Langston scribbled in his notebook, avoiding Poirot's gaze, and Canon Gray murmured prayers. His hands trembling, Poirot addressed them, his voice steady. Mesdames et messieurs, the cathedral's depths reveal a trail to the Anselm chalice, sought by Sir Rowland and guarded by a watcher. A scroll speaks of a saint's gaze, and danger follows us. Speak, if you wish to unburden your soul. Lady? Margaret's voice was soft. Rowland believed the chalice was his redemption. He said it was hidden where the saint watched. Langston snorted. Superstition, Lady Margaret. The chalice is a relic, not a miracle. Sir Rowland's death was his own doing. Wren's pencil scratched. Death makes headlines, Dr. Langston. I heard you arguing with him about sacred. Grounds care to explain? Enough, Vale said, his voice low but firm. The cathedral deserves peace, not accusations. Poirot's instincts prickled Margaret's veiled hints. Langston's defensiveness, Wren's probing, Vale's restraint, Gray's fear. He dismissed them, keeping the scroll secret. Hastings, he said, the saint's gaze points to the stained glass windows. We shall examine them next. In his room, Poirot spread the map fragment, brass key, raven feathers, and scroll on a table. their clues intertwining. The ledger's theft, the gallery's lies, the crypt's scroll, the watcher's sabotage. The stained glass windows, he suspected, held the next clue, perhaps in St. Anselm's depiction. He penned a note, updating the suspect's motives. Gray's secretive fear, Margaret's hidden knowledge, Langston's ambition, Wren's curiosity. Vale's guarded nest. He followed Wren discreetly, watching as she lingered in the cloisters, sketching a stained glass window of St. Anselm, her pencil tracing his eyes with unusual focus. Poirot whispered to Hastings, "Her sketches, they are too precise. We must watch her closely." The chapter closed with Poirot standing in the nave, the coded scroll in his hand, the stained glass windows casting vibrant hues across the stone. The scroll's discovery and the slab's sabotage were triumphs, marking progress in the mystery. Wren's suspicious sketching and the watcher's whisper urged him toward the windows, where the saint's gaze would reveal the next secret, and Poirot's resolve hardened, ready to unravel the whispers of St. Anselm's. Chapter 4. The Saint's Gaze. The midday sun pierced the mist enveloping Eldermoor, casting fractured rainbows through the stained glass windows of St. Anselm's Cathedral, their vibrant hues dancing across the nave's stone floor. Hercule Poirot stood beneath a towering window depicting St. Anselm, the saint's eyes rendered in piercing sapphire, seeming to follow every movement. The coded scroll from the crypt, inscribed with "The saint's gaze guards the truth," had led him here, its message a beacon in the mystery of Sir Rowland Haverford's murder in the Whispering Gallery. The anonymous letter warning of whispers that kill, the brass key with ivy tendrils, the raven feathers, the vellum map fragment, and the crypt's near-fatal slab sabotage wove a deepening enigma around the Anselm chalice, a golden relic stolen in 1623 by Brother Alaric. Canon Edmund Gray's nervous secrecy, Lady Margaret Haverford's veiled grief, Dr. Victor Langston's archaeological ambition, Miss Sylvia Wren's suspicious sketching, and Mr. Thomas Vale's guarded silence fueled Poirot's suspicions, while the watcher's whispers and sabotage, candelabrum, organ, slab signaled a desperate guardian of the chalice. Poirot's little gray cells thrummed, eager to decipher the saint's gaze. Captain Hastings, adjusting his coat against the cathedral's chill, joined him, his torch casting a golden glow across the mosaic floor. "Poirot, these windows are magnificent, but a saint's gaze guarding truth? Sounds like a riddle wrapped in glass. After that crypt trap, I'm half expecting one of these panes to fall on us." Poirot's mustache twitched, a spark of amusement in his green eyes. "A falling window, mon ami?" "Non, the watcher prefers subtler traps, but Hercule Poirot is vigilant. The scroll points to St. Anselm's gaze, and these windows, they hold the next clue we examine with care." The nave's windows were a gallery of medieval artistry, each pane a story of saints, miracles, and crosses entwined with ivy, their colors crimson, sapphire, emerald glowing like jewels. Poirot focused on the window of St. Anselm, a robed figure holding a chalice, his sapphire eyes framed by ivy vines that mirrored the brass key's design. The window's base was slightly misaligned, its lead frame protruding faintly, as if tampered with. Poirot's gloved fingers traced the edge, finding a subtle catch hidden in the ivy motif. With a gentle press, a panel in the stone sill clicked open, revealing a small niche containing a silver cross pendant, its intricate ivy design matching the key, its center set with a single sapphire that caught the sunlight. "Voila," Poirot murmured, lifting the pendant, its weight solid in his hand. "The saint's gaze yields a treasure, Hastings. This pendant, it is no mere ornament, it is a key to the chalice." Hastings gasped, his torch trembling. "By Jove, Poirot! Another key? That sapphire looks like it belongs with the chalice. But how does it fit with the murder?" Poirot's pulse quickened as he examined the pendant, noting a faint inscription. On its back, the whisper carries the light. The murder, mon ami, is tied to the chalice's secrets. Sir Rowland sought this relic, and someone ensured he never found it. This pendant, it points us closer. As he spoke, footsteps echoed. In the nave, and Miss Sylvia Wren appeared, her notebook clutched tightly, her sharp eyes fixed on the pendant. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice laced with curiosity, "you've found something in the windows, haven't you? I saw Sir Rowland sketching these panes last week, obsessed with their patterns. Care to share?" Poirot's gaze narrowed, noting her keen observation. "Mademoiselle Wren, your sketches of St. Anselm were most precise. Did Sir Rowland share his findings with you? Perhaps of a chalice hidden in sacred glass?" Wren's smirk was sly. He was cagey, muttering about eyes that see truth. "I'm a journalist, Monsieur Poirot. I notice things. But I'm not your killer." "Perhaps not," Poirot said, slipping the pendant into his coat. "But your eyes, they see much. Return to the deanery, mademoiselle, and write with discretion." As Wren retreated, her steps light but purposeful, a sudden blackout plunged the nave into darkness. The sunlight snuffed out as if by a giant hand. A low whisper echoed, chilling and distinct. "Leave the chalice buried." Hastings spun his torch flickering, but the nave was empty save for the shadows dancing across the windows. Poirot's torch swept the floor, revealing a loosened wire near a candelabrum, its insulation frayed, suggesting deliberate sabotage. "Good Lord, Poirot!" Hastings exclaimed, his voice tight. "That whisper, it's like the galleries. Voice, but here. And this blackout another of the Watcher's tricks?" "Oui," Poirot said, pocketing a fragment of the frayed wire. "The Watcher uses darkness and whispers to deter us, but they reveal their fear. A pendant, it brings us closer to the chalice." Poirot examined the candelabrum, finding a raven feather tucked behind its base, its sheen stark against the stone. "Another sign," he said, adding it to his collection. "The Watcher watches, but their clues guide us." They returned to the deanery, where the guests were gathered for tea, their faces tense in the firelight. Canon Edmund Gray stood by. The hearth, his tick pronounced, his prayer beads clicking nervously. "Monsieur Poirot, a blackout in the nave? This cathedral is cursed, I tell you." Poirot's tone was calm but probing. "Cursed, Monsieur Gray? Or guarded by one who fears the truth?" The saint's gaze has spoken, revealing a clue to the chalice. "Who among you knew of Sir Rowland's search in the windows?" Lady Margaret. Haverford, seated with her lace handkerchief, spoke softly. "Rowland loved those windows. He said St. Anselm's eyes held secrets. I thought it was his imagination." Dr. Victor Langston, sipping tea, snorted. "Imagination? Sir Rowland was chasing fairy tales. My excavations found no chalice, only bones." "You're wasting time, Poirot." Mr. Thomas Vale, pouring tea, remained silent, his gray eyes unreadable, while Miss Sylvia Wren scribbled, her gaze darting to Langston. "Bones make poor headlines, Doctor," she said. "Sir Rowland's sketches of the windows were detailed. I saw them in his study." Poirot's instincts prickled Gray's fear, Margaret's veiled hints, Langston's dismissal, Wren's probing, Vale's silence. He addressed them, his voice steady. "Mesdames et messieurs, the cathedral's windows reveal a path to the Anselm chalice, but someone seeks to bury it in darkness. A whisper warns us to stop, yet we press on. Speak if you wish to clear your conscience." The guests exchanged glances, but none spoke. As tea ended, a faint creak sounded from the cloisters, and Poirot led Hastings to investigate, finding a loosened stone in the floor, its edges freshly chipped. Beneath it lay a folded note in the Watcher's script. "The gallery's heart beats with truth." Poirot's torch revealed a faint cross scratched into the stone. mirroring the pendant's design. "The gallery again," Hastings whispered. "This watcher's leading us in circles, Poirot." "That note, it's practically daring us back to the Whispering Gallery." "Daring, oui," Poirot said, pocketing the note. "But the watcher underestimates Hercule Poirot. The galleries. Acoustics, they hold the key to Sir Rowland's death." In his room, Poirot spread the map fragment, brass key, raven feathers, coded scroll, silver pendant, pen note on a table, their clues intertwining. The ledger's theft, the gallery's lies, the crypt scroll, the saint's pendant, the watcher's whispers. The Whispering Gallery, he suspected, was not just a crime scene, but a tool of the murder, its acoustics amplifying a fatal lure. He penned a note, updating the suspect's motives. Gray's secretive panic, Margaret's subtle knowledge, Langston's scorn, Wren's relentless curiosity, Vale's enigmatic restraint. He followed Vale discreetly, watching as he polished a candelabrum in the vestry, his movements deliberate, but his eyes scanning the shadows. Poirot whispered to Hastings, his silence, "It is a shield. We must test the gallery's secrets to pierce it." The chapter closed with Poirot standing beneath the stained glass window of St. Anselm, the silver cross pendant in his hand, its sapphire glinting in the fading light. The pendant's discovery and the watcher's note were triumphs, marking progress in the mystery. The blackout sabotage and Vale's guarded demeanor urged him toward the Whispering Gallery, where the heart of the truth awaited, and Poirot's resolve hardened, ready to unravel the whispers of St. Anselm's. Chapter 5. The gallery's secret. The afternoon sun cast a golden haze through the arched windows of St. Anselm's Cathedral, its rays fractured by the stained glass depiction of St. Anselm, whose sapphire eyes seemed to pierce the shadows of the nave. Hercule Poirot stood in the Whispering Gallery, the circular chamber high above, where Sir Rowland Haverford's murder had ignited a labyrinthine mystery. The anonymous letter warning of whispers that kill, the brass key with ivy tendrils, the raven feathers, the vellum map fragment from the library, the coded scroll from the crypt, the saint's gaze guards the truth, and the silver cross pendant from the stained glass niche, the whisper carries the light, wove. Tapestry of clues pointing to the Anselm chalice, a golden relic stolen in 1623 by Brother Alaric. The watcher's escalating sabotage-toppled candelabrum, discordant organ, crypt slab, and nave blackout revealed a desperate guardian, while Canon Edmund Gray's nervous secrecy, Lady Margaret Haverford's veiled grief, Dr. Victor Langston's archaeological ambition, Miss Sylvia Wren's suspicious sketching, and Mr. Thomas Vale's guarded silence deepened the web of suspicion. The watcher's latest note, "The gallery's heart beats with truth," urged Poirot to explore the gallery's acoustic secrets. His little gray cells thrummed, eager to unravel the chamber's hidden truths. Captain Hastings, clutching his torch, stood beside him, his face etched with unease as he gazed at the gallery's smooth stone walls, designed to carry whispers across their curve. "Poirot, this place gives me the creeps," he said, his voice echoing faintly. "Whispers that kill? And after that blackout in the nave, I'm expecting another of the watcher's tricks. Do you think the gallery itself is the key to Sir Rowland's murder?" Poirot's mustache twitched, his green eyes gleaming with resolve. "The gallery, mon ami, is more than a stage. It is an instrument of death. Its whispers, they lured Sir Rowland to his fate. The pendant's inscription speaks of light carried by whispers, and we shall make this chamber sing its secrets." The Whispering Gallery was a marvel of acoustic design, its circular walls amplifying the faintest sound, so a murmur at one point could be heard clearly across the chamber. Poirot tested its properties, standing at the gallery's edge and whispering. "The truth hides in the heart," his voice traveling in a ghostly arc to Hastings, who stood opposite, his eyes wide with astonishment. "By Jove, Poirot!" Hastings exclaimed, his voice carrying back. It's like magic. Sir Rowland must have heard something up here, something that led to his murder. Magic none, Poirot said, pacing the mosaic floor, its crosses and ivy glinting in the torchlight. Method. The killer used the gallery's acoustics to lure Sir Rowland, perhaps with the promise of the chalice. We must find the heart of this place. Poirot's torch swept the walls, noting their seamless stone, polished to a mirror-like sheen. At the gallery's center, the mosaic formed a subtle spiral, its ivy tendrils converging on a single tile shaped like a heart, its edges faintly raised. He knelt, his gloved fingers probing the tile, which clicked under pressure, revealing a hidden panel. Inside lay a second vellum map fragment, its lines tracing a path to the cathedral's bell tower, marked with a bell entwined with ivy. Faint inscription read, "The chime calls the faithful, but betrays the thief." "Voila," Poirot murmured, his pulse quickening as he lifted the fragment. "The gallery's heart yields a clue, Hastings. The bell tower is our next destination, where the chalice's trail continues." Hastings peered at the map, his torch casting shadows that danced like ravens. "Another map. This one's for the bell tower. Do you think the chalice is hidden there? But that inscription, 'betrays the thief,' sounds ominous." Before Poirot could respond, footsteps echoed on the spiral staircase, and Mr. Thomas Vale, the verger, appeared, his gray eyes sharp, his stoic facade cracking with unease. "Monsieur Poirot," he said, his voice low, "you're meddling. In sacred places. The gallery is for prayer, not treasure hunts. What have you found?" Poirot's gaze narrowed, noting Vale's clenched fists. "Sacred, Monsieur Vale? Yet Sir Rowland died here, lured by whispers. This map points to the bell tower. Did you hear his final words?" Vale's jaw tightened. "I heard prayers, nothing more. Sir Rowland was always up here, muttering about the chalice. I warned him to leave it be." "Warned, we?" Poirot sighed, slipping the map into his coat. Yet someone ensured his silence. "Return to your duties, monsieur, and leave the gallery to Hercule Poirot." As Vale retreated, his steps heavy, a sudden creak echoed from above, and a heavy beam in the gallery's rafters groaned, swaying precariously. Poirot pulled Hastings aside as the beam crashed to the floor, splintering the mosaic and sending dust billowing. His torch revealed fresh cuts on the rafter supports, evidence of sabotage, and a raven feather lay among the debris, its sheen stark in the gloom. "Good Lord, Poirot!" Hastings gasped, coughing. That beam nearly flattened. "You?" "Another feather. The watcher's getting reckless." "Reckless, we," Poirot said, pocketing the feather. "But their desperation reveals their fear. This map, it brings us closer to the chalice, and they cannot abide it." Poirot examined the beam, finding a concealed pulley system rigged. To release it, its ropes freshly tampered with. "Clever," he murmured, "but not clever enough for Hercule Poirot." They descended to the nave, where Canon Edmund Gray awaited, his face pale with alarm. "Monsieur Poirot, we heard a crash. What happened up there?" "A test, Monsieur Gray," Poirot said, his tone calm but piercing. "The gallery guards its secrets with violence, and someone guards it fiercely. Tell me, who has access to the rafters?" Gray's tic worsened, his voice faltering. "Only Mr. Vale and the bell ringers. The rafters are checked monthly, but Sir Rowland often climbed up there, saying he felt the chalice's presence." "Presence, oui," Poirot said, noting Gray's unease. "The bell tower, it calls us now." As they prepared to leave, Lady Margaret Haverford approached, her gray silk dress catching the nave's light, her eyes red-rimmed but sharp. "Monsieur Poirot, you were in the gallery?" "Rowland spent hours there, listening to whispers he said came from the saints." "Did you find anything?" Poirot's tone softened, but his gaze was probing. "Madame, your husband's quest led to his death. The gallery has revealed a path to the bell tower. Did he speak of chimes or bells in his search? Margaret's hands trembled, clutching her handkerchief. He said the cathedral sang to him, guiding him to the chalice. I thought it was his obsession speaking. Obsession, perhaps, Poirot said, but perhaps truth. Return to the deanery, madame, and trust Hercule Poirot. In the deanery's dining hall, the guests gathered for dinner, the air thick with tension. Dr. Victor Langston sat with his notebook, his hawkish features sharp as he dissected a pheasant. Monsieur Poirot, he said, his tone clipped, you're chasing ghosts in the gallery. Sir Rowland's death was his own doing, meddling with relics he didn't understand. Miss Sylvia Wren, her notebook open, leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. Relics make headlines, Doctor. I heard Sir Rowland in the gallery, whispering about chimes that reveal. Care to comment? Langston snorted. Journalist nonsense. He was delusional, hearing voices that weren't there. Cannon. Gray, at the table's head, fidgeted with his napkin. Please, no more talk of voices. The gallery is sacred, not a stage for murder. Mr. Thomas Vale, serving wine, remained silent, his gray eyes unreadable, but his hands paused briefly at Wren's words. Poirot addressed them, his voice steady. Mesdames et messieurs, the whispering gallery has spoken, revealing a path to the bell tower. Someone used its acoustics to lure Sir Rowland to his death, and they strike again to stop us. Speak, if you wish to unburden your soul. The guests exchanged glances, but none spoke. As dinner ended, a faint chime echoed from the cathedral, its notes sharp and irregular, as if struck by an unseen hand. Poirot and Hastings rushed to the nave, finding the bell tower's door ajar, a folded note in the watcher's script lying on the threshold. The chime sings of betrayal. A raven feather rested beside it, its sheen stark in the torchlight. The watcher dares us forward, Poirot said, pocketing the note and feather. The bell tower, Hastings, it is where we go next. Hastings shivered, clutching his torch. A chime of betrayal? Sounds like another trap, Poirot. That bean was bad enough. What's waiting in the tower? A trap, oui, Poirot said, his voice calm, but one we shall turn against its maker. The map fragment points to the tower, and the chimes will reveal the truth. In his room, Poirot spread the map fragments, brass key, raven feathers, coded scroll, silver pendant, and notes on a table, their clues intertwining. The ledger's theft, the gallery's lies, the crypt scroll, the saint's pendant, the Jeu. Tower's map, the watcher's sabotage. The bell tower, he suspected, held a clue to the chalice's location and the killer's method, perhaps tied to its chimes. He penned a note, updating the suspect's motives. Gray's secretive panic, Margaret's subtle knowledge, Langston's scorn, Wren's relentless curiosity, Vale's enigmatic restraint. He followed Langston discreetly, watching as he lingered. In the cloisters, examining a bell-shaped carving with intense focus. Poirot whispered to Hastings, his interest in the cathedral's symbols, it is too keen. We must test the tower's secrets to pierce his mask. Chapter closed with Poirot standing in nave, vellum map fragment in his hand, cathedral's bell. Tower looming against the twilight sky. Map's discovery and beam's sabotage were triumphs. Chapter 6. The bell tower's echo. The twilight sky draped Eldermore in a velvet shroud, its stars winking through the mist as Hercule Poirot stood at the base of St. Anselm's Cathedral's bell tower, the vellum map fragment in his gloved hand, its lines tracing a path to a bell entwined with ivy, inscribed with "The chime calls the faithful, but betrays the thief." The murder of Sir Rowland Haverford in the Whispering Gallery, the anonymous letter warning of whispers that kill, the brass key with ivy tendrils, the raven feathers, the first map fragment from the library, the coded scroll from the crypt, the silver cross pendant from the stained glass niche, and the latest map fragment from the gallery's heart-shaped tile wove a deepening enigma around the Anselm chalice, a golden relic stolen in 1623 by Brother Alaric. The Watcher's relentless sabbat-toppled candelabrum, discordant organ, crypt slab, nave blackout, and gallery beam revealed a guardian desperate to protect the chalice, while the Watcher's note, the chime sings of betrayal, and the eerie chime from the tower urged Poirot upward. Canon Edmund Gray's nervous secrecy, Lady Margaret Haverford's veiled grief, Dr. Victor Langston's archaeological ambition, Miss Sylvia Wren's probing sketches, and Mr. Thomas Vale's stoic restraint fueled Poirot's suspicions. His little gray cells thronged, eager to decipher the tower's secrets. Captain Hastings, clutching his torch against the evening chill, stood beside him, his eyes tracing the tower's silhouette, its spire piercing the sky like a sentinel. "Poirot, this tower looks like it's hiding more than bells," he said, his voice tinged with unease. "That chime we heard, betrayal," the note said. "After that beam nearly crushed us in the gallery, I'm expecting another nasty surprise." Poirot's mustache twitched, a spark of determination in his green eyes. "Surprises, mon ami? The Watcher delivers them, but Hercule Poirot anticipates. The bell tower's chimes, they sing of the chalice and Sir Rowland's murder. This map, it leads us to truth, but we climb with caution." The bell tower's entrance was a narrow archway behind the nave, its iron door ajar, creaking in the wind. Poirot's torch illuminated a spiral staircase of worn stone, its walls etched with faint crosses and ivy, echoing the brass key's design. The air was heavy with the scent of rust and old wood, and a distant chime reverberated, its notes sharp and irregular, as if struck by an unseen hand. Poirot led the way, his cane tapping rhythmically, while Hastings followed, his torch casting shadows that flickered like restless spirits. "By Jove, Poirot," Hastings whispered, his voice echoing in the stairwell. "That chime it's like. The cathedral's warning us. Do you think the chalice is up there?" Poirot paused, his ears straining as a faint whisper drifted down, too soft to discern, but chilling in its presence. "The cathedral speaks, Hastings, and the tower, it holds answers. The chime, it betrays the thief, perhaps the killer." They reached the bell chamber, a circular room of ancient oak beams and massive bronze bells, their surfaces etched with ivy motifs. The largest bell, suspended in the center, bore a brass plaque inscribed with "The chime calls the faithful, but betrays the thief," matching the map's words. Poirot's torch swept the chamber, noting a wooden platform beneath the bell, its planks worn but sturdy. A faint seam in the wood caught his eye, and with a gentle press, a panel slid open, revealing a concealed compartment. Inside lay a leather-bound journal, its cover embossed with a chalice and ivy, its pages filled with Sir Rowland's elegant script, detailing his search for the Anselm chalice to restore his family's honor, tarnished by a 17th-century scandal. "Voila," Poirot murmured, his pulse quickening as he turned the pages. "Sir Rowland's own words, Hastings. He writes of the chalice hidden where the faithful gather, and of a betrayal he feared. The tower, it was his sanctuary." Hastings peered at the journal, his torch trembling. "A scandal? Betrayal? Sounds like Sir Rowland knew someone. Was after him. But where's the chalice?" Before Poirot could respond, footsteps creaked on the staircase, and Lady Margaret Haverford appeared, her gray silk dress catching the torchlight, her face pale but resolute. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice trembling, "I saw your torch from the nave. Rowland spent hours in this tower, saying the bells spoke to him. Have you found something?" Poirot's gaze softened, but his tone was probing. "Madame, your husband's journal reveals his fear of betrayal. He sought the chalice to redeem your family. Did he name his betrayer?" Margaret's hands clutched her handkerchief, her eyes glistening. He was afraid, said someone close was watching. Him, wanting the chalice for themselves. He wouldn't say who, only that the bells warned him. Warned, we, Poirot said, slipping the journal into his coat. The bells, they sing now. Return to the deanery, madame, and trust Hercule Poirot. As Margaret retreated, her steps hurried, a sudden groan echoed from above, and a bell's rope snapped, sending the massive bronze bell swinging toward Hastings. Poirot yanked him aside, the bell grazing the platform with a deafening clang, splintering wood and sending dust billowing. His torch revealed fresh cuts on the rope, evidence of sabotage, and a raven feather lay among the debris, its sheen stark in the gloom. Good Lord, Poirot! Hastings gasped, his heart pounding. That bell nearly took my head off. Another feather, the watchers getting desperate. Desperate, we, Poirot said, pocketing the feather. Their fear betrays them. This journal, it brings us closer to the chalice and the killer. Poirot examined the rope, finding a hidden blade embedded in the rigging, its edge freshly sharpened. Clever, he murmured, but not clever enough for Hercule Poirot. They descended to the nave, where Canon Edmund Gray awaited, his face ashen with alarm. Monsieur Poirot, we heard a crash. What happened up there? A test, monsieur. Gray, Poirot said, his tone calm but piercing. The tower guards its secrets with violence, and someone guards it fiercely. Tell me, who has access to the bell ropes? Gray's tick worsened, his voice faltering. Only Mr. Vale and the bell ringers. The ropes are checked weekly, but Sir Rowland often climbed to the chamber, saying he heard the chalice's call. Call we, Poirot said, noting Gray's unease. The journal speaks of betrayal, perhaps, in the cathedral's records. As Gray stammered, Dr. Victor Langston approached, his hawkish features sharp in the nave's light. Monsieur Poirot, you're chasing myths in the tower now? Sir Rowland's obsession with bells was madness. My excavations found nothing but dust. Poirot's gaze narrowed. Dust, Monsieur Langston, yet your interest in the cathedral's symbols is keen. Did Sir Rowland share his findings in the tower? Langston's spectacles glinted. He rambled about chimes and redemption. I study history, not fairy tales. Miss Sylvia Wren, lingering nearby, her notebook open, smirked. History sells poorly, Doctor. I saw Sir Rowland sketching bells in his study, said they sang of truth. Care to comment? Enough, Mr. Thomas Vale interjected, his voice low but firm, as he polished a candelabrum. The tower is for worship, not speculation. Poirot addressed the group, his voice steady. Mesdames et messieurs, the bell tower has revealed Sir Rowland's fears and a path to the chalice. Someone used the gallery's whispers to lure him to death, and they strike again to stop us. Speak, if you wish to clear your conscience. The guests exchanged glances, but none spoke. As they dispersed, a faint chime echoed from the tower, its notes soft but deliberate, as if played by an unseen hand. Poirot led Hastings to the cloisters, where a stone bench bore a fresh carving of a bell, entwined with ivy, mirroring the map's design. Beneath it lay a folded note in the watcher's script. The past guards the chalice. A raven feather rested beside it, its sheen stark in the torchlight. The watcher guides us again, Poirot said, pocketing the note and feather. The cathedral's archives. Hastings, they hold the past's secrets. Hastings shivered, clutching his torch. The archives? After that bell. I'm expecting another trap, Poirot. That note, the past guards, sounds like a warning. A warning, we, Poirot said, his voice calm, but one we shall heed with method. The journal points to the archives, where the chalice's history awaits. In his room, Poirot spread the map fragments, brass key, raven feathers, coded scroll, silver pendant, journal, and notes on a table, their clues intertwining. The ledger's theft, the gallery's lies, the crypt scroll, the saint's pendant, the tower's journal, the watcher's sabotage. The archives, he suspected, held records of the 17th century scandal Sir Rowland sought to redeem, perhaps revealing the killer's motive. He penned a note, updating the suspect's motives. Grey's secretive panic, Margaret's hidden fears, Langston's scornful ambition, Wren's relentless curiosity, Vale's enigmatic restraint. He followed Margaret discreetly, watching as she lingered in the nave, gazing at a bell-shaped carving with a trembling hand. Poirot whispered to Hastings, "Her fear, it is too deep. We must probe the archives to uncover her secrets." The chapter closed with Poirot standing in the cloisters, the note in his hand, the cathedral's bell tower silhouetted against the starry sky. The journal's discovery and the bell's sabotage were triumphs, marking progress in the mystery. The chime's eerie note and Margaret's fearful gaze urged him toward the archives, where the past's secrets awaited, and Poirot's resolve hardened, ready to unravel the whispers of St. Anselm's. Chapter 7. The Archives' Truth. The morning mist hung low over Eldermoor, its tendrils weaving through the spires of St. Anselm's Cathedral, casting an ethereal glow on the stone gargoyles that guarded its secrets. Hercule Poirot stood in the cloisters, the watcher's note in his gloved hand. Its cryptic script, "The past guards the chalice," etched beside a raven feather, urging him toward the cathedral's archives. Sir Rowland Haverford's murder in the Whispering Gallery, the anonymous letter warning of whispers that kill, the brass key with ivy tendrils, the raven feathers, the vellum map fragments from the library and gallery, the coded scroll. From the crypt, the silver cross pendant from the stained glass niche, and the bell tower's journal revealing Sir Rowland's fear of betrayal, wove a labyrinthine mystery around the Anselm chalice, a golden relic stolen in 1623 by Brother Alaric. The watcher's relentless sabotage toppled candelabrum, discordant organ, crypt slab, nave blackout, gallery beam, and swinging bell pointed to a guardian desperate to protect the chalice, while Canon Edmund Grey's nervous secrecy, Lady Margaret Haverford's veiled fears, Dr. Victor Langston's archaeological ambition, Miss Sylvia Wren's probing sketches, and Mr. Thomas Val's stoic restraint deepened Poirot's suspicions. His little gray cells thronged, eager to unearth the past's truths in the archives. Captain Hastings, adjusting his scarf against the chill, joined him, his torch casting a golden glow across the cloister's ivy-covered arches. "Poirot, these archives sound like a dusty tomb," he said, his voice tinged with unease. "After that bell nearly took my head off, I'm expecting another trap. This chalice business, do you think the past really holds the key?" Poirot's mustache twitched, a spark of determination in his green eyes. "The past, mon ami, is a map to the present. Sir Rowland sought to redeem a scandal, and the archives will reveal it. The watcher's note, it guides us to truth, but we tread with vigilance." The cathedral's archives were housed in a low-ceilinged chamber beneath the chapter house, its walls lined with iron-bound shelves groaning under centuries of parchments and ledgers. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and old ink, and narrow lancet windows let in slivers of light, illuminating dust motes that swirled like forgotten whispers. Canon Grey led them inside, his hands trembling as he lit a brass lantern, its flame casting shadows of crosses and ivy across the stone walls. "This archive holds the cathedral's history," Grey said, his voice unsteady, his tit pronounced. "Records of bishops, relics, scandals. Sir Rowland spent days here, searching for the chalice. Be careful, Monsieur Poirot. Some truths are best left buried." Poirot's gaze swept the room, noting a heavy oak table scarred with age, its surface cluttered with quills and faded manuscripts. "Buried, Monsieur Grey? None." Hercule Poirot unearths truth. "Show me where Sir Rowland worked." Grey pointed to a corner nook, its shelves packed with leather-bound volumes, their spines embossed with crosses. Poirot's gloved fingers traced. The titles, pausing on a chronicle from 1623, its cover marked with an ivy-entwined cross, echoing the brass key's design. He opened it, revealing pages of Latin script detailing a feud between the Haverfords and the Dunstans, a local family accused of aiding Brother Alaric's theft of the Anselm chalice. A passage noted, "The Dunstans swore vengeance, claiming the chalice as their birthright, cursing the Haverfords for eternity." "Voila," Poirot murmured, his pulse quickening. "A feud, Hastings, that stains the present." Sir Rowland sought to redeem his family, but the Dunstan's shadow lingers. Hastings peered at the chronicle, his torch trembling. "By Jove, Poirot, a 400-year-old grudge? Do you think a Dunstan descendant is behind the murder?" "Perhaps," Poirot said, turning the page. The journal spoke of betrayal someone close, Sir Rowland feared. The archives, they reveal the players. As he spoke, footsteps echoed in the chamber, and Dr. Victor Langston appeared, his hawkish features sharp in the lantern light, his notebook clutched tightly. "Monsieur Poirot," he said, his tone clipped, "you're digging through dust for myths. The chalice is a fable, my excavations prove it. What have you found?" Poirot's gaze narrowed, noting Langston's intensity. "Myths, monsieur." "Langston? Yet Sir Rowland funded your work, seeking the chalice. This chronicle speaks of a feud. Did he share its secrets with you?" Langston's spectacles glinted. "He rambled about family honor, nothing more. I study bones, not vendettas." Before Poirot could press further, a sudden crackle filled the air, and a spark flared in the corner, igniting a pile of parchments. Flames leapt, devouring half the shelf, before Hastings grabbed a cloak to smother them. Poirot's torch revealed a trail of oil leading to a tipped lantern, its wick tampered with, and a raven feather lay among the singed papers, its sheen stark in the gloom. "Good Lord, Poirot!" Hastings gasped, coughing. "Arson!" That fire was no accident, and another feather. The watchers at it again. "Arson, oui," Poirot said, pocketing the feather. "The watcher burns the past to hide the truth, but they leave clues." He sifted through the ashes, finding a singed note in the watcher's script. "The vault holds the sin." Poirot examined the lantern, noting fresh scratches on its base, suggesting sabotage. "Clever," he murmured, "but not clever enough for Hercule Poirot." They returned to the nave, where Canon Gray awaited, his face ashen with alarm. "Monsieur Poirot, a fire in the archives?" "This cathedral is cursed." "Cursed non," Poirot said, his tone calm but piercing. "Guarded by one who fears exposure." "The note speaks of a vault. Where is it, Monsieur Gray?" Gray's tic worsened, his voice faltering. "There's a hidden vault beneath the nave, sealed for centuries. Sir Rowland asked about it, but only the Dean and I have the key." "A vault, oui," Poirot said, noting Gray's unease. "Your secrets, they unravel." As Gray retreated, Miss Sylvia Wren approached, her notebook open, her eyes gleaming. "Monsieur Poirot, a fire? My readers will love this. I saw Sir Rowland reading about the Dunstans said their curse was real. Found anything juicy?" Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "Juicy, Mademoiselle Wren? The truth is not a fruit to be plucked." "Your sketches of the cathedral's symbols, did they include a vault?" Wren's smirk was sly. "Maybe. Sir Rowland sketched a cross under the nave, muttering about sins buried deep. I'm just an observer, Poirot." "An observer, oui," Poirot said, noting her keenness. "Return to the deanery, mademoiselle, and observe with care." In the deanery's dining hall, the guests gathered for luncheon, the air thick with tension. Lady Margaret Haverford sat quietly, her grief a silent storm, while Mr. Thomas Vale served soup, his gray eyes unreadable. Dr. Victor Langston scribbled in his notebook, avoiding Poirot's gaze, and Canon Gray murmured prayers, his hands trembling. Poirot addressed them, his voice steady. Mesdames et messieurs, the archives reveal a feud that shadows the chalice. Sir Rowland sought redemption, but someone guards the past with fire. A vault holds the sin speak, if you wish to unburden your soul. Lady Margaret's voice was soft. Rowland spoke of a curse, said the Haverfords were damned for taking the chalice. He wanted to return it. Langston snorted. Superstition, Lady Margaret. The chalice is a myth, and Sir Rowland's death was his folly. Wren's pencil scratched. Folly makes headlines, Doctor. I heard you arguing with Sir Rowland about buried sins. Care to explain? Enough, Vale said, his voice low but firm. The cathedral deserves peace, not accusations. Poirot's instincts prickled Gray's panic, Margaret's veiled hints, Langston's scorn, Wren's probing, Vale's restraint. He dismissed them, keeping the note secret. As luncheon ended, a faint creak echoed from the nave, and Poirot lead Hastings to investigate, finding a loose flagstone near the altar, its edges chipped. Beneath it lay a brass plate etched with a chalice and ivy, mirroring the key's design. The vault, Hastings whispered. This must be it, Poirot. That note, the vault holds the sin. It's leading us straight to it. Leading we, Poirot said, pocketing a fragment of chipped stone. But the watcher sets traps. The vault, it awaits us. In his room, Poirot spread the map fragments, brass key, raven feathers, coated scroll, silver pendant, journal, and notes on a table, their clues intertwining. The ledger's theft, the gallery's lies, the crypt scroll, the saint's pendant, the tower's journal, the archive's feud, the watcher's sabotage. The vault, he suspected, held the chalice or its final clue, and the feud's legacy pointed to a Dunstan descendant among the guests. He penned a note, updating the suspect's motives. Gray's secretive panic, Margaret's hidden fears, Langston's scornful ambition, Wren's relentless curiosity, Vale's enigmatic restraint. He followed Vale discreetly, watching as he polished a chalice-shaped candlestick in the vestry, his eyes scanning the shadows. Poirot whispered to Hastings, his restraint, it hides knowledge. We must probe the vault to uncover his truth. The chapter closed with Poirot standing in the nave, the singed note in his hand, the cathedral's altar glowing in the candlelight. The note's discovery and the archive's fire were triumphs, marking progress in the mystery. The brass plate and Vale's guarded demeanor urged him toward the vault, where the chalice's sin awaited, and Poirot's resolve hardened, ready to unravel the whispers of St. Anselm's. Chapter 8. The Hidden Vault. The afternoon light filtered through the mist shrouding Eldermoor, casting a soft glow on the stone arches of St. Anselm's Cathedral, where Hercule Poirot stood before the altar, the singed note from the archives. In his gloved hand, its cryptic script, the vault holds the sin, etched beside a raven feather. The brass plate beneath the nave's flagstone, embossed with a chalice and ivy, marked the entrance to a hidden vault, the next step in the step. Labyrinthine mystery of Sir Rowland Haverford's murder in the Whispering Gallery. The anonymous letter warning of whispers that kill. The brass key with ivy tendrils, the raven feathers, the vellum map fragments from the library and gallery, the coated scroll from the crypt, the silver cross pendant from the stained glass. Nietzsche, the bell tower's journal revealing Sir Rowland's fear of betrayal, and the archive's chronicle of the Haverford-Dunstan feud wove a tapestry of clues around the Anselm chalice, a golden relic stolen in 1623 by Brother Alaric. The watcher's relentless sabotage toppled candelabrum, discordant organ, crypt slab, nave blackout, gallery beam, bell rope, and archive fire pointed to a guardian desperate to protect the chalice, while Canon Edmund Gray's nervous secrecy, Lady Margaret Haverford's veiled fears, Dr. Victor Langston's archaeological ambition, Miss Sylvia Wren's probing sketches, and Mr. Thomas Vile's stoic restraint deepened Poirot's suspicions. His little gray cells thrummed, eager to unlock the vault's secrets. Captain Hastings, clutching his torch against the cathedral's chill, stood beside him, his eyes fixed on the brass plate. Poirot? A hidden vault beneath the nave? He sighed, his voice tinged with excitement and dread. After that fire in the archives, I'm bracing for another trap. Do you think the chalice is really down there? And what's the sin the note mentions? Poirot's mustache twitched, a spark of resolve in his green eyes. The sin, mon ami, is the heart of this mystery. The chalice, it lies within reach, but the watcher guards it fiercely. The vault, it will reveal the truth, but we descend with caution. The brass plate was set into the nave's floor, its edges seamlessly blended with the stone, visible only to the keenest eye. Canon Gray joined them, his hands trembling as he produced a heavy iron key, its head shaped like a cross with ivy tendrils, mirroring the brass key's design. "This opens the vault," he said, his voice unsteady, his tick pronounced. "It's been sealed for centuries. Only the Dean and I have access. Sir Rowland begged to see it, but I refused." Poirot's gaze narrowed, noting Gray's agitation. "Refused, Monsieur Gray? Yet Sir Rowland sought the chalice to redeem his family. What sin does this vault hold?" Gray's eyes darted away. "Legends, Monsieur, Poirot, tales of betrayal and curses. The vault was sealed after the chalice's theft." The iron key turned in the brass plate's lock, and with a groan, the flagstone lifted, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. The air was damp and heavy, scented with earth and ancient stone, and Poirot's torch cut through the gloom, illuminating a passage lined with carved crosses and ivy motifs. Hastings followed, his torch casting shadows that danced like specters, while Gray lingered above, his prayers a faint murmur. "By Jove, Poirot," Hastings whispered, his voice echoing in the passage. "This feels like a tomb. That note about sin, do you think it's tied to the Dunstan feud?" Poirot paused, his ears straining as a faint whisper drifted through the passage, too soft to discern but chilling in its presence. "The feud, we, and perhaps more. The vault holds the chalice's truth, and the watcher's whispers follow us." The passage opened into a circular chamber, its walls etched with Viking runes and chalice motifs, its center dominated by a stone pedestal. On it rested a golden chalice, encrusted with sapphires that gleamed in the torchlight, its design matching the chronicle's description of the Anselm chalice. Beside it lay a leather-bound journal, its cover marked with a Dunstan crest, a raven clutching a cross. Poirot lifted the chalice, its weight solid and cold, and opened the journal, revealing pages of 17th century script. The Dunstans claimed the chalice, stolen by Alaric to protect our blood. The Haverford's theft cursed us, and we vow its return. "Voila," Poirot murmured, his pulse quickening. "The Anselm chalice, Hastings and the Dunstans' vow. Sir Rowland sought redemption, but this relic is a spark of vengeance." Hastings gasped, his torch trembling. "The chalice itself. And a Dunstan journal? Do you think a descendant is the killer?" Before Poirot could respond, footsteps echoed in the passage, and Dr. Victor Langston appeared, his spectacles glinting, his face a mix of awe and greed. "Monsieur Poirot, you've found it," he said, his voice sharp. "The chalice belongs in a museum, not a cathedral. Hand it over, it's a historical treasure." Poirot's gaze narrowed, noting Langston's intensity. "A treasure, monsieur? Langston? Or a motive for murder? Your excavations sought this chalice, funded by Sir Rowland. Did you betray him for it?" Langston's jaw tightened. "I study history, not murder. Sir Rowland was a fool, chasing myths. That chalice is mine by right of discovery." As he spoke, a low rumble shook the chamber, and a trapdoor in the ceiling slammed shut, sealing the passage with a deafening crash. Dust billowed, and Poirot's torch revealed fresh scratches on the trapdoor's hinges. Evidence of sabotage, and a raven feather lay on the pedestal, its sheen stark in the gloom. "Good Lord, Poirot!" Hastings gasped, coughing. "We're trapped!" Another feather the watchers added again. "Trapped we?" Poirot said, pocketing the feather and chalice. "But the watchers' fear betrays them. This journal, it names the Dunstan's vow, and the chalice, it is the key." Poirot examined the trapdoor, finding a hidden lever concealed in a rune-carved niche, its surface scratched as if recently used. With a pull, the trapdoor creaked open, revealing a ladder back to the nave. "Quickly, mon ami," he said, leading the way. "The vault yields its treasure, but danger walks with us." They emerged into the nave, where Canon Gray awaited, his face ashen with alarm. "Monsieur Poirot, we heard a crash. What happened down there?" "A test, Monsieur Gray," Poirot said, his tone calm but piercing. "The vault has revealed the Anselm chalice, but someone seeks to bury us with it. Who knew of this chamber?" Gray's tic worsened, his voice faltering. "Only the Dean and I and Sir Rowland, who suspected its existence. He said the chalice was his redemption." "Redemption, oui," Poirot said, noting Gray's unease. "Yet it brings death." We returned to the gallery, where the whispers began. As Gray retreated, Miss Sylvia Wren approached, her notebook open, her eyes gleaming. "Monsieur Poirot, you've been in the vault? My readers will devour this." "I saw Sir Rowland sketching a chalice under the nave, said it was Sin's resting place. Found anything juicy?" Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "Juicy, Mademoiselle Wren? The truth is not a fruit. Your sketches of Sir Rowland's work, did they include a Dunstan crest?" Wren's smirk was sly. "Maybe. He was obsessed with family curses. I'm just an observer, Poirot." "An observer, oui," Poirot said, noting her keenness. "Return to the deanery, mademoiselle, and observe with care." In the deanery's dining hall, the guests gathered for dinner, the air thick with tension. Lady Margaret Haverford sat quietly, her grief a silent storm, while Mr. Thomas Vale served wine, his gray eyes unreadable. Dr. Victor Langston scribbled in his notebook, avoiding Poirot's gaze, and Canon Gray murmured prayers, his hands trembling. Poirot addressed them, his voice steady, holding the chalice aloft, its sapphires glinting. "Mesdames et messieurs, the vault has yielded the Anselm chalice, sought by Sir Rowland to redeem his family. A Dunstan vow shadows it, and someone used the gallery's whispers to silence him. Speak, if you wish to unburden your soul." "Lady?" Margaret's voice was soft. "Rowland believed the chalice would lift our curse. He feared a Dunstan sought it." Langston snorted. "Curses are nonsense, Lady Margaret. The chalice is a relic, not a miracle. Sir Rowland's death was his folly." Wren's pencil scratched. "Folly makes headlines, Doctor. I heard you arguing with Sir Rowland about sacred treasures. Care to explain?" "Enough," Vale said, his voice low but firm. "The cathedral deserves peace." Poirot's instincts prickled Gray's panic, Margaret's veiled hints, Langston's greed, Wren's probing, Vale's restraint. He dismissed them, keeping the journal secret. As dinner ended, a faint whisper echoed from the nave, and Poirot led Hastings to investigate, finding a loose pew near the altar, its wood scratched. Beneath it lay a brass disc etched with a chalice, mirroring the vault's design. "The gallery again," Hastings whispered. "This disc, it's a clue, Poirot. The watcher's leading us back to where it started." "Leading, we," Poirot said, pocketing the disc. "The gallery's whispers hold the key to the murder." In his room, Poirot spread the map fragments. Brass key, raven feathers, coated scroll, silver pendant, journal, Dunstan journal, chalice, and notes on a table, their clues intertwining. The ledger's theft, The gallery's lies, the crypt's scroll, the saint's pendant, the tower's journal, the archive's feud, the vault's chalice, the watcher's sabotage. The gallery, he suspected, was the key to the killer's method, its acoustics a weapon. He penned a note, updating the suspect's motives. Gray's secretive panic, Margaret's hidden fears, Langston's greedy ambition, Wren's relentless curiosity, Vale's enigmatic restraint. He followed Langston discreetly, watching as he examined a chalice-shaped carving in the cloisters, his eyes gleaming with intent. Poirot whispered to Hastings, "His greed, it betrays him. We must return to the gallery to unmask the killer." The chapter closed with Poirot standing in the nave, the brass disc in his hand, the cathedral's spires glowing in the moonlight. The chalice's discovery and the trapdoor's sabotage were triumphs, marking progress in the mystery. The disc and Langston's greedy gaze urged him toward the whispering gallery, where the truth of the murder awaited, and Poirot's resolve hardened, ready to unravel the whispers of St. Anselm's. Chapter 9. The whispering trap. The evening shadows draped St. Anselm's Cathedral in a cloak of mystery, the moon's pale light filtering through the stained glass windows, casting ghostly patterns across the nave. Hercule Poirot stood at the entrance to the whispering gallery, the brass disc etched with a chalice and ivy in his gloved hand, its discovery beneath a nave pew echoing the vault's secrets. The Anselm chalice, now secured in his room, had been retrieved from the hidden vault, alongside a Dunstan journal revealing a 17th-century vow to reclaim the relics stolen by Brother Alaric. Sir Rowland Haverford's murder in this very gallery, the anonymous letter warning of whispers that kill, the brass key with ivy tendrils, the raven feathers, the vellum map fragments, the coded scroll, the silver cross pendant, the bell, Tower's journal, and the archives chronicle of the Haverford-Dunstan feud wove a tapestry of clues, each thread tightened by the watcher's relentless sabotage. Candelabrum, organ, crypt slab, nave blackout, gallery beam, bell rope, archive, fire and vault trapdoor. Canon Edmund Gray's nervous secrecy, Lady Margaret Haverford's veiled fears, Dr. Victor Langston's greedy ambition, Miss Sylvia Wren's probing sketches, and Mr. Thomas Vale's stoic restraint deepened Poirot's suspicions. The gallery's acoustics, he believed, were the key to the murder, and a staged confrontation would lure the watcher's hand. His little gray cells thrummed, eager to set a trap in the chamber where whispers carried death. Captain Hastings, clutching his torch, stood beside him, his eyes tracing the spiral staircase to the gallery. "Poirot, back to the whispering gallery?" he said, his voice tinged with apprehension. "After that trapdoor in the vault, I'm expecting another of the watcher's tricks. Are you sure staging a confrontation here will flush them out?" Poirot's mustache twitched, a spark of cunning in his green eyes. "A trap, mon ami, requires bait, and Hercule Poirot is the master of such games." The gallery's whispers lured Sir Rowland to his death, and they will reveal the killer. We gather the players, and the truth will echo. The whispering gallery was a circular chamber of smooth stone, its walls designed to amplify the faintest sound, a marvel of medieval engineering. Poirot had arranged for the suspects to meet here, claiming a breakthrough in the case. As he and Hastings ascended the staircase, the air grew heavy with the scent of wax and stone, and a faint whisper drifted through the gallery, too soft to discern, but chilling in its presence. Poirot tested the acoustics again, whispering, "The chalice speaks," his voice carrying across the chamber to Hastings, who stood opposite, his eyes wide with unease. "By Jove, Poirot!" Hastings whispered back, his voice echoing, "It's uncanny how clear that is." "The killer must have used this to lure Sir Rowland," whispered something irresistible. "Precisement," Poirot said, his torch sweeping the mosaic floor, its crosses and ivy glinting in the moonlight. "The gallery is a weapon, and we shall use it against the watcher." The suspects arrived, their footsteps echoing on the staircase. Canon Gray entered first, his cassock disheveled, his tic pronounced as he clutched his prayer beads. "Lady?" Margaret followed, her gray silk dress catching the torchlight, her face pale but resolute. Dr. Langston strode in, his spectacles glinting, his notebook tucked under his arm. Miss Wren trailed, her sharp eyes scanning the gallery, her notebook open. Mr. Vale entered last, his gray eyes unreadable, his movements precise as he carried a lantern. Poirot stood at the gallery's center, holding the Anselm chalice aloft, its sapphires blazing in the torchlight. "Mesdames et messieurs," he said, his voice steady, amplified by the gallery's acoustics, "the Anselm chalice, sought by Sir Rowland to redeem his family, has been found. Its discovery in the vault reveals a Dunstan vow of vengeance, and someone among you used the gallery's whispers to silence him. Speak, and let the truth echo." Lady Margaret gasped, her hands trembling. "Rowland believed the chalice would lift our curse. He heard whispers guiding him. Did they betray him?" Langston snorted, his voice sharp. "Curses are nonsense, Poirot. The chalice is a relic, nothing more. Sir Rowland's death was his own folly, chasing myths." Wren's pencil scratched, her smirk sly. "Myths make headlines, Doctor." "I heard. Sir Rowland whispering in this gallery, something about sacred echoes. Care to comment?" Gray's voice trembled. "The gallery is sacred, not a stage for murder. Please, Monsieur Poirot, this must stop." Vale remained silent, his lantern steady, but his eyes flicked the chalice, a fleeting intensity Poirot noted. "Silence, Monsieur Vale?" he said. "The gallery hears all, yet you say nothing." As the tension thickened, Poirot moved to a wall panel, its ivy motif subtly misaligned. His gloved fingers probed, revealing a hidden compartment containing a small brass microphone, its wires trailing into the stone, designed to amplify whispers to specific points in the gallery. "Voila," he said, holding it up. "The watcher's tool used to lure Sir Rowland with false promises of the chalice." Hastings gasped, his torch trembling. "A microphone! That explains the ghostly whispers. The killer rigged the gallery to trap him." Before Poirot could respond, a low rumble shook the gallery, and a stone slab in the floor shifted, its edges grinding as it began to slide, threatening to crush Poirot. He leapt aside, pulling Hastings with him as the slab crashed into place, splintering the mosaic. His torch revealed fresh chisel marks on its edges, evidence of sabotage, and a raven feather lay in the debris, its sheen stark in the gloom. "Good Lord, Poirot!" Hastings exclaimed, coughing. "That slab nearly flattened us." Another feather, the watchers desperate now. "Desperate, we," Poirot said, pocketing the feather and microphone. "Their fear betrays them. This microphone it confirms. A gallery is the murder stage." Poirot examined the slab, finding a concealed mechanism in a wall niche, its gears tampered with. "Clever," he murmured, "but not clever enough for Hercule Poirot." They descended to the nave, where the Constable Harris awaited, his face pale. "Monsieur Poirot, we heard a crash. What happened up there?" "A trap, Monsieur Harris," Poirot said, his tone calm but piercing. "The gallery's secrets are deadly, but they reveal the killer's hand. Secure the chalice in my room. Si vous plate." As Harris left, Lady Margaret approached, her eyes glistening. "Monsieur Poirot, that microphone Rowland heard whispers promising the chalice, was it a lie?" "A lie, oui," Poirot said, noting her distress. "The killer used the gallery's acoustics to deceive him. Did he name his betrayer?" "He feared someone close," she said, her voice soft. "He wouldn't say who." In the deanery's dining hall, the guests gathered for tea, the air thick with tension. Canon Gray sat by the hearth, his prayers faltering. Dr. Langston scribbled in his notebook, avoiding Poirot's gaze. Miss Wren sketched the gallery's mosaic, her eyes sharp. Mr. Vale served tea, his movements precise, but his eyes guarded. Poirot addressed them, his voice steady. Mesdames et messieurs, the whispering gallery's microphone reveals how Sir Rowland was lured to his death. The chalice's discovery threatens the killer, and they strike to silence us. Speak, if you wish, to clear your conscience. Gray's tic worsened. A microphone in the gallery? This is sacrilege. Langston snorted. Sacrilege? It's technology, Canon. Sir Rowland was a fool, hearing voices that weren't there. Wren's pencil paused. Voices sell papers, Doctor. I saw you sketching. The gallery's walls last week looking for hidden devices? Enough, Vale said, his voice low but firm. The cathedral deserves peace. Poirot's instincts prickled Gray's panic, Margaret's veiled fears, Langston's scorn, Wren's probing, Vale's restraint. He dismissed them, keeping the microphone secret. As tea ended, a faint creak echoed from the vestry, and Poirot lead Hastings to investigate, finding a loose panel behind a candelabrum, its wood scratched. Beneath it lay a folded note in the watcher's script. The verger's heart hides the truth. The verger, Vale, Hastings whispered. This note points to his quarters, Poirot. The watcher's leading us to him. Leading, we. Poirot said, pocketing the note. The watcher plays a dangerous game, but we shall turn it against them. In his room, Poirot spread the map fragments. Brass key, raven feathers, coated scroll, silver pendant, journals, chalice, brass disc, microphone, and notes on a table, their clues intertwining. The ledger's theft, the gallery's lies, the crypt scroll, the saint's pendant, the tower's journal, the archive's feud, the vault's chalice, the gallery's microphone, the watcher's sabotage. Vale's quarters, he suspected, held evidence of his role, perhaps as the watcher, or a Dunstan descendant. He penned a note, updating the suspect's motives. Gray's secretive panic, Margaret's hidden fears, Langston's greedy scorn, Wren's relentless curiosity, Vale's enigmatic restraint. He followed Vale discreetly, watching as he polished. A chalice-shaped candlestick in the vestry, his eyes scanning the shadows with unusual intensity. Poirot whispered to Hastings, his restraint hides knowledge. We must search his quarters to unmask him. The chapter closed with Poirot standing in the nave, the note in his hand, the cathedral's spires glowing in the moonlight. The microphone's discovery and the slab's sabotage were triumphs, marking progress in the mystery. The note and Vale's guarded demeanor urged him toward the verger's quarters, where the truth of the watcher awaited, and Poirot's resolve hardened, ready to unravel the whispers of St. Anselm's. Chapter 10. The Verger's Secret. The moon hung low over Aldermore, its silver light casting eerie shadows through the arched windows of St. Anselm's Cathedral, where Hercule Poirot stood in the vestry, the watcher's note in his gloved hand. Its cryptic script, the verger's heart hides the truth, etched beside a raven feather. The discovery of a hidden microphone in the whispering gallery had confirmed the killer's method of luring Sir Rowland Haverford to his death, amplifying false promises of the Anselm chalice through the chamber's acoustics. The brass key with ivy tendrils, the raven feathers, the vellum map fragments, a coated scroll from the crypt, the silver cross pendant from the stained glass niche, the bell tower's journal revealing Sir Rowland's fear of betrayal, the archives, chronicle of the Haverford-Dunstan feud, the hidden vault's chalice and Dunstan journal, the brass disc under the nave's pew, and the gallery's slab sabotage wove a tightening web around the relics stolen in 1623 by Brother Alaric. The watcher's relentless sabotage candelabrum, organ, crypt slab, nave blackout, gallery beam, bell rope, archive fire, vault trapdoor, and gallery slab pointed to a desperate guardian, while Canon Edmund Gray's nervous secrecy, Lady. Margaret Haverford's veiled fears, Dr. Victor Langston's greedy ambition, Miss Sylvia Wren's probing curiosity, and Mr. Thomas Vale's stoic restraint deepened Poirot's suspicions. The note's focus on the verger urged him to search Vale's quarters, where the truth might lie. His little gray cells thrummed, eager to pierce the verger's enigmatic silence. Captain Hastings, clutching his torch, stood beside him, his eyes scanning the vestry's oak panels. "Poirot, Vale's quarters?" he said, his voice tinged with apprehension. "After that slab nearly crushed us in the gallery, I'm expecting another trap. That note, the verger's heart, do you think Vale's the watcher?" Poirot's. Mustache twitched, a spark of cunning in his green eyes. "The watcher, mon ami, hides behind shadows, but Vale's silence, it is a veil. The note points to his heart, perhaps his secrets. We search his quarters with method, for Hercule Poirot unveils truth." The vestry was a modest room, its walls lined with polished candlesticks and liturgical vestments, the air heavy with the scent of wax and incense. A narrow door led to Vale's quarters, a Spartan chamber tucked behind the sacristy, its furnishings limited to a cot, a wooden desk, and a locked cabinet. Poirot's torch swept the room, noting a faint carving of a raven clutching a cross on the desk, mirroring the Dunstan crest from the vault's journal. With a gentle press, the carving clicked, revealing a hidden drawer containing a coded letter in elegant script. The chalice returns to its blood. Beside it lay a silver medallion, its surface etched with the same Dunstan crest, a raven and cross, entwined with ivy. "Voila," Poirot murmured, his pulse quickening as he examined the letter. "The Dunstan legacy, Hastings. Vale, he is tied to the feud, and this letter speaks of reclaiming the chalice." Hastings gasped, his torch trembling. "By Jove, Poirot! A Dunstan descendant? Vale could be the watcher or the killer. But what's that about blood?" Before Poirot could respond, footsteps echoed in the vestry, and Mr. Thomas Vale appeared, his gray eyes sharp, his stoic facade cracking with alarm. "Monsieur Poirot," he said, his voice low but tense, "you're trespassing in my private quarters. What have you found?" Poirot's gaze narrowed, holding up the medallion. "Monsieur Vale, this crest Dunstan, we? The letter speaks of the chalice returning to its blood. You warned Sir Rowland to leave it be. Why?" Vale's jaw tightened, his hands clenching. "I'm a Dunstan, yes, but I'm no killer. My family swore to protect the chalice, not steal it. Sir Rowland's obsession threatened to expose it, so I watched him, nothing more." "Watched, we," Poirot said, slipping the letter into his coat. "Yet the watcher leaves feathers and traps. Speak, monsieur, or the gallery's whispers will accuse you." Vale's eyes flickered with defiance. "I left feathers to warn him off, not to kill. The chalice belongs to my blood, not the Haverfords." As Vale spoke, a faint clink sounded from the desk, and Poirot's torch revealed a porcelain teacup, its rim dusted with a fine white powder. He lifted it carefully, detecting a bitter almond scent cyanide, the same poison hinted at in Sir Rowland's autopsy. The cup saucer bore a fresh scratch, suggesting recent tampering. "Good Lord, Poirot!" Hastings exclaimed, stepping back. "Poison! That cup was meant for you, wasn't it? The watcher's targeting us now." "Targeting, we," Poirot said, wrapping the cup in his handkerchief. "The watcher grows bold, but their boldness betrays them. This poison, it links to Sir Rowland's death." Poirot examined the cabinet, finding a hidden lock that the brass key opened, revealing a bundle of raven feathers and a vial of white powder, its label scratched off, but reeking of cyanide. "Clever," he murmured, "but not clever enough." For Hercule Poirot. They returned to the nave, where Canon Gray awaited, his face pale with alarm. "Monsieur Poirot, you were in Vale's quarters? What's happened now?" "A revelation, Monsieur Gray," Poirot said, his tone calm but piercing. "The verger's heart hides a Dunstan legacy, and a poisoned cup threatens us. Who prepares? The tea in the deanery?" Gray's tic worsened, his voice faltering. "Vale handles the tea, but others have access. This is madness." "Madness non," Poirot said, noting Gray's unease. "Method." We returned to the suspects, where motives unravel. As Gray retreated, Miss Sylvia Wren approached, her notebook open, her eyes gleaming. "Monsieur Poirot, you've been poking." "Around Vale's room? My readers will love this." "I saw him polishing a cup yesterday, looked suspicious. Found anything juicy?" Poirot's smile was enigmatic. "Juicy, Mademoiselle Wren? The truth is not a fruit. Your observations of Vale did. They include a Dunstan crest?" Wren's smirk was sly. "Maybe. He's cagey, always polishing things." "I'm just an observer, Poirot." "An observer, oui," Poirot said, noting her keenness. "Return to the deanery, mademoiselle, and observe with care." In the deanery's dining hall, the guests gathered for dinner, the air thick with tension. Lady Margaret Haverford sat quietly, her grief a silent storm, while Dr. Victor Langston scribbled in his notebook, avoiding Poirot's gaze. Canon Gray murmured prayers, his hands trembling, and Vale served wine, his movements precise, but his eyes guarded. Poirot addressed them, his voice steady, holding up the medallion. "Mesdames et messieurs, the verger's quarters reveal a Dunstan legacy, tied to the chalice's vow. A poisoned cup threatens us, as it did Sir Roland. Someone among you guards the chalice with death. Speak, if you wish to unburden your soul." Lady Margaret's voice was soft. "Roland feared a Dunstan's vengeance. He said the chalice was their curse." Langston snorted. "Vengeance? Nonsense, Lady Margaret. The chalice is a relic, and Vale's just a servant." Wren's pencil scratched. "Servants make headlines, Doctor." "I saw Vale with a vial in the vestry care to explain, Mr. Vale." Vale's eyes narrowed. "I polish silver, not poison. Accuse me, and you'll find nothing." Poirot's instincts prickled Gray's panic, Margaret's veiled hints, Langston's scorn, Wren's probing, Vale's defiance. He dismissed them, keeping the letter secret. As dinner ended, a faint creak echoed from the cloisters, and Poirot lead Hastings to investigate, finding a loose stone in the wall, its edges chipped. Beneath it lay a folded note in the Watcher's script. "The scholar's obsession buries the truth. The scholar Langston." Hastings whispered, "This note points to his research, Poirot. The Watcher's pointing us to him now." "Pointing? We?" Poirot said, pocketing the note. "The Watcher plays a dangerous game, but we shall follow." In his room, Poirot spread the map fragments, brass key, raven feathers, coated scroll, silver pendant, journals, chalice, brass disc, microphone, coded letter, medallion, and notes on a table. Their clues intertwining: the ledger's theft, the gallery's lies, the crypt's scroll, the saint's pendant, the tower's journal, the archive's feud, the vault's chalice, the gallery's microphone, the verger's legacy, the Watcher's. Sabotage. Langston's research, he suspected, held evidence of his greed, perhaps tying him to the poison. He penned a note, updating the suspect's motives. Gray's secretive panic, Margaret's hidden fears, Langston's greedy scorn, Wren's relentless curiosity, Vale's Dunstan defiance. He followed Langston discreetly, watching as he examined. A chalice-shaped carving in the cloisters, his fingers tracing it with greedy intensity. Poirot whispered to Hastings, "His obsession? It betrays him? We must search his research to unmask him." The chapter closed with Poirot standing in the cloisters, the note in his hand, the cathedral's spires glowing in the moonlight. The letter's discovery and the poisoned cup were triumphs, marking progress in the mystery. The note and Langston's greedy demeanor urged him toward the scholar's research, where the truth of the murder awaited, and Poirot's resolve hardened, ready to unravel the whispers of St. Anselm's. Chapter 11. The Scholar's Obsession. The dawn light crept through the mist enveloping Eldermore, casting a pale glow on the Gothic spires of St. Anselm's Cathedral, where Hercule Poirot stood in the cloisters, the watcher's note in his gloved hand, its cryptic script. The scholar's obsession buries the truth, etched beside a raven feather. A discovery of a poisoned teacup in Mr. Thomas Vale's quarters, laced with cyanide matching Sir Rowland Haverford's murder, had confirmed Vale's Dunstan lineage and his protective warnings, yet the note now pointed to Dr. Victor Langston's greedy ambition. A brass key with ivy tendrils, the raven feathers, the vellum map fragments, the coded scroll from the crypt, the silver cross pendant from the stained glass niche, the bell tower's journal, the archives chronicle of the Haverford Dunstan feud, the hidden vault's Anselm chalice and Dunstan journal, the brass disc, the gallery's hidden microphone, and the verger's coded letter wove a tightening web around the relic stolen in 1623 by Brother Alaric. The watcher's relentless sabotage, candelabrum, organ, crypt slab, nave blackout, gallery beam, bell rope, archive fire, vault trapdoor, gallery slab, and poisoned cup revealed a guardian desperate to protect the chalice, while Canon Edmund Grey's nervous secrecy, Lady Margaret Haverford's veiled fears, Langston's archaeological greed, Miss Sylvia Wren's probing curiosity, and Vale's Dunstan defiance deepened Poirot's suspicions. Langston's research, he believed, held the key to his motives, and a search of his study would unmask the truth. His little gray cells thrummed, eager to unravel the scholar's secrets. Captain Hastings, clutching his torch against the morning chill, stood beside him, his eyes scanning the cloister's ivy-covered arches. "Poirot, Langston's study?" he said, his voice a mix of excitement and dread. "After that poisoned cup, I'm expecting another trap. That note, the scholar's obsession? Do you think Langston's the killer?" Poirot's mustache twitched, a spark of cunning in his green eyes. "The scholar, mon ami, buries truth in greed, but Hercule Poirot unearths it. Langston's ambition for the chalice is a motive, and his research will reveal his hand. We search with vigilance." Langston's study was a cluttered room off the cathedral's chapter house, its walls lined with shelves of archaeological texts, maps, and artifacts, the air thick with the scent of ink and old leather. A heavy oak desk dominated the space, its surface strewn with sketches of chalices, crosses, and Viking runes, many mirroring the cathedral's motifs. Poirot's torch swept the room, noting a locked drawer in the desk, its keyhole shaped like a cross with ivy tendrils, matching the brass key's design. With a turn, the drawer opened, revealing a leather-bound notebook filled with Langston's meticulous notes. The Anselm chalice, a Viking relic of divine power, lies hidden in the cathedral, its location encoded in the Dunstan feud. Sir Rowland's funding was a means to claim it for the British Museum. A folded parchment inside bore a cipher, a grid of letters and numbers, its header reading, "The chalice's final lock." "Voila," Poirot murmured, his pulse quickening as he examined the cipher. Langston's obsession, Hastings. He sought the chalice not for history, but glory. This cipher, it hides the final clue. Hastings peered at the notebook, his torch trembling. "By Jove, Poirot, a cipher?" Langston was decoding the chalice's hiding place. "Do you think he killed Sir Rowland to keep it?" "Perhaps," Poirot sighed, slipping the cipher into his coat. "The poison in Vale's quarters suggests a deeper game, but Langston's greed is a thread." As he spoke, footsteps echoed in the chapter house, and Miss Sylvia Wren appeared, her notebook clutched tightly, her sharp eyes fixed on the desk. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice laced with curiosity, "snooping in Langston's study?" I saw him sketching chalices here last week. Looked like a man possessed. Found anything juicy for my readers?" Poirot's gaze narrowed, noting her keen observation. "Mademoiselle Wren, your sketches of the cathedral's symbols rival Langston's. Did you see his cipher, perhaps?" Wren's smirk was sly. "Maybe. He was muttering about cracking the code. I'm a journalist, Poirot. I notice things." "Notice, oui," Poirot said, his tone probing. "Return to the deanery, mademoiselle, and write with care." As Wren retreated, her steps light but purposeful, a sudden spark flared from the desk's lamp, its cord frayed and spitting electricity. Poirot yanked Hastings back as the lamp erupted in a shower of sparks, igniting a stack of papers. He smothered the flames with a coat, his torch revealing a tampered wire and a raven feather among the ashes, its sheen stark in the gloom. "Good Lord, Poirot!" Hastings gasped, coughing. "Another sabotage." "That lamp was rigged, the watchers targeting us again." "Targeting we," Poirot said, pocketing the feather. "The watcher buries truth in fire, but their fear betrays them. This cipher, it brings us closer." Poirot examined the lamp, finding fresh scratches on its base, evidence of sabotage. "Clever," he murmured, "but not clever enough for Hercule Poirot." They returned to the nave, where Canon Gray awaited, his face pale with alarm. "Monsieur." "Poirot, a fire in the study? This cathedral is cursed." "Cursed, non," Poirot said, his tone calm but piercing. "Guarded by one who fears exposure. Langston's research reveals his greed for the chalice. Who has access to his study?" "Gray's." Tick worsened, his voice faltering. "Langston, Vale, and I, Sir Rowland, often visited, seeking his notes." "Notes, oui," Poirot said, noting Gray's unease. "They point to a final lock." As Gray retreated, Lady Margaret Haverford approached, her gray silk dress catching the nave's light, her eyes red-rimmed but sharp. "Monsieur Poirot, you were in Langston's study?" Rowland trusted him, but they argued over the chalice's fate. "Did you find something?" Poirot's tone softened, but his gaze was probing. "Madame, your husband's trust was betrayed. Langston sought the chalice for glory. Did Rowland suspect him?" Margaret's hands trembled, clutching her handkerchief. "He said Langston was too eager, wanting fame. Rowland feared betrayal." "Betrayal, oui," Poirot said. "Return to the deanery, madame, and trust Hercule Poirot." In the deanery's dining hall, the guests gathered for luncheon, the air thick with tension. Mr. Thomas Vale served soup, his gray eyes unreadable, while Dr. Langston sat with his notebook, his jaw tight. Canon Gray murmured prayers, his hands trembling, and Miss Wren scribbled, her eyes darting. Poirot addressed them, his voice steady, holding up the cipher. "Madame?" "Et monsieur's. The scholar's research reveals a greed for the Anselm chalice, encoded in a cipher. Someone poisoned Sir Rowland to claim it, and they strike again to stop us. Speak, if you wish to unburden your soul." Gray's voice trembled. "A cipher? This is sacrilege, Monsieur Poirot." Langston's spectacles glinted, his tone sharp. "My research is academic, Poirot. Sir Rowland's death was his own folly, chasing myths." Wren's pencil scratched. "Myths make headlines, Doctor. I saw you burning papers last night hiding something." Vale's voice was low but firm. "Enough accusations. The cathedral deserves peace." Poirot's instincts prickled Gray's panic, Margaret's veiled hints, Langston's scorn, Wren's probing, Vale's restraint. He dismissed them, keeping the cipher secret. As luncheon ended, a faint creak echoed from the chapter house, and Poirot led Hastings to investigate, finding a loose floorboard near Langston's desk, its edges chipped. Beneath it lay a folded note in the watcher's script. "The truth echoes in the gathering." "The gathering," Hastings whispered. "A confrontation, Poirot. The watcher's pushing us to face them all." "Pushing, we," Poirot said. pocketing the note. The watcher sets the stage, but we shall direct the play. In his room, Poirot spread the map fragments, brass key, raven feathers, coated scroll, silver pendant, journals, chalice, brass disc, microphone, coated letter, medallion, cipher, and notes on a table, their clues intertwining, the ledgers. Theft, the gallery's lies, the crypt scroll, the saint's pendant, the tower's journal, the archive's feud, the vault's chalice, the gallery's microphone, the verger's legacy, the scholar's cipher, the watcher's sabotage. A final confrontation, he suspected, would unmask the killer, with the cipher decoding the chalice's final lock. He penned a note, updating the suspect's motives. Gray's secretive panic, Margaret's hidden fears, Langston's greedy obsession, Wren's relentless curiosity, Vale's Dunstan defiance. He followed Wren discreetly, watching as she lingered in the nave, sketching a chalice-shaped carving with intense focus. Poirot whispered to Hastings, "Her curiosity, it is too sharp. We must gather all to unmask the truth." The chapter closed with Poirot standing in the nave, the note in his hand, the cathedral's spires glowing in the dawn light. The cipher's discovery and the lamp's sabotage were triumphs, marking progress in the mystery. The note and Wren's keen sketching urged him toward a final confrontation, where the truth of the murder awaited, and Poirot's resolve hardened, ready to unravel the whispers of St. Anselm's. Chapter 12. The final echo of the twilight sky cloaked Eldermoor in a veil of mystery, its stars barely piercing the mist, as Hercule Poirot stood in the nave of St. Anselm's Cathedral, the watcher's note in his gloved hand, its cryptic script. Truth echoes in the gathering, etched beside a raven feather. The Anselm chalice, secured in his room, had been retrieved from the hidden vault, its sapphires gleaming with the weight of centuries. Sir Rowland Haverford's murder in the Whispering Gallery, the anonymous letter warning of whispers that kill, the brass key with ivy tendrils, the vellum map fragments, the coated scroll from the crypt, the silver cross pendant from the stained glass niche, the bell tower's journal revealing Sir Rowland's fear of betrayal, the archive's chronicle of the Haverford-Dunstan feud, the vault's Dunstan journal, the brass disc, the gallery's hidden microphone, the verger's coded letter, and Dr. Victor Langston's cipher had woven a tapestry of clues, each thread tightened by the watcher's relentless sabotage candelabrum. Organ, crypt slab, nave blackout, gallery beam, bell rope, archive fire, vault trapdoor, gallery slab, poisoned, cup, and rigged lamp. Canon Edmund Gray's nervous secrecy, Lady Margaret Haverford's veiled fears, Langston's greedy ambition, Miss Sylvia Wren's probing curiosity, and Mr. Thomas Vale's Dunstan defiance had led Poirot to orchestrate a final confrontation. In the Whispering Gallery, where the killer's identity would be unmasked, his little gray cells thrummed, eager to let the gallery's echoes reveal the truth. Captain Hastings, clutching his torch, stood beside him, his eyes tracing the spiral staircase to the gallery. Poirot, a final gathering in the whispering. "Gallery?" he said, his voice a mix of anticipation and dread. "After that rigged lamp, I'm expecting the watcher to strike again. That cipher, have you cracked it? Is it enough to catch the killer?" Poirot's mustache twitched, a spark of triumph in his green eyes. "The cipher, mon ami, is the key to the chalice's final lock, and the gallery, it is the stage for truth. The killer used its whispers to lure Sir Rowland, and tonight Hercule Poirot uses them to unmask the murderer. We gather with vigilance." In his room, Poirot had decoded Langston's cipher, a grid of letters and numbers that, when aligned with the cathedral's ivy motifs, revealed a message. The chalice's truth lies where whispers meet the heart. The heart-shaped tile in the gallery, where a vellum map fragment had been found, was the focal point, and Poirot suspected the killer had used the microphone to amplify a fatal lure. He arranged for the suspects to meet in the gallery at dusk. Claiming the chalice's final secret was at hand, the Whispering Gallery was a circular chamber of polished stone, its walls amplifying the faintest sound, a marvel of medieval design. As Poirot and Hastings ascended the staircase, the air grew heavy with the scent of wax and stone, and a faint whisper drifted through, too soft to discern, but chilling in its presence. Poirot tested the acoustics, whispering, "The truth will." Echo, his voice carrying across the chamber to Hastings, who stood opposite, his eyes wide with unease. "By Jove, Poirot!" Hastings whispered back, his voice echoing. "It's eerie how clear that is. The killer's going to hate this." "Trap. Precisement," Poirot said, his torch sweeping the mosaic floor, its crosses and ivy glinting in the moonlight. "The gallery will betray them, as it betrayed Sir Rowland." The suspects arrived, their footsteps echoing on the staircase. Canon Gray entered first, his cassock disheveled, his tic pronounced as he clutched his prayer beads. Lady Margaret followed, her gray silk dress catching the torchlight, her face pale but resolute. Dr. Langston strode in, his spectacles glinting, his notebook tucked under his arm. Miss Wren trailed, her sharp eyes scanning the gallery, her notebook open. Mr. Vale entered last, his gray eyes unreadable, his lantern steady. Poirot stood at the gallery's center, holding the Anselm chalice aloft, its sapphires blazing. "Mesdames et messieurs," he said, his voice amplified by the gallery's acoustics. "The Anselm chalice, sought by Sir Rowland to redeem his family, has been found. Its trail key, maps, scroll, pendant, journals, disc, microphone, letter, cipher reveals a Dunstan vow and a murder. Someone used this gallery's whispers to lure Sir Rowland to his death with cyanide, and tonight the truth will echo." Lady Margaret gasped, her hands trembling. Rowland heard whispers promising the chalice. Was it a lie? "A lie, oui," Poirot said, his gaze piercing. "The microphone hidden here amplified a false promise. Let us test it." He moved to the heart-shaped tile, pressing it to reveal the hidden compartment where the map fragment had been found. Placing the microphone inside, he whispered, "The killer stands among us," his voice booming across the gallery, startling the group. Gray flinched. Margaret clutched her handkerchief. Langston's jaw tightened. Wren's pencil paused, and Vale's eyes narrowed. Poirot continued. The Haverford-Dunstan feud drove Sir Rowland to seek the chalice, but someone greedy, vengeful, or fearful poisoned him. Let us examine the motives. He turned to Gray. "Monsieur Gray, your secrecy hid the vault's existence. Did you fear Sir Rowland's discovery would expose a cathedral scandal?" Gray's tic worsened, his voice trembling. "I protected the cathedral's sanctity, not its secrets. I knew nothing of murder." Poirot faced Margaret. "Madame Haverford, your husband feared betrayal. Did you conceal a Dunstan's presence to protect him?" Margaret's eyes glistened. "I loved Rowland. He feared someone close, but I knew no names." Poirot eyed Langston. "Monsieur Langston, your cipher sought the chalice for fame. Did you poison Sir Rowland to claim it?" Langston's spectacles glinted, his tone sharp. "My research was academic. Sir Rowland's death was his folly, chasing myths." Poirot turned to Wren. "Mademoiselle Wren, your sketches and probing questions rival a detective's. Did you seek the chalice's story, or its power?" Wren's smirk was sly. "I chase headlines. Poirot, not relics. I saw the truth, but I didn't kill for it." Finally, Poirot faced Vale. "Monsieur Vale, your Dunstan blood vowed to reclaim the chalice. The poisoned cup in your quarters, the feathers, did you kill to fulfill that vow?" Vale's jaw tightened. "I warned Sir Rowland to stop, left. Feathers to scare him. I'm no murderer, my family protects the chalice." As the tension peaked, a sudden click echoed, and a hidden panel in the gallery's wall slid open, releasing a cloud of acrid gas. Poirot shouted, "To the stairs!" pulling Hastings and Margaret as the others scrambled. The gas dissipated quickly, but Poirot's torch revealed a rigged canister, its valve tampered with, and a raven feather lay beside it, its sheen stark in the gloom. "Good Lord, Poirot!" Hastings gasped, coughing. "Gas! The watchers! Desperate to stop us." "Desperate, we," Poirot said, pocketing the feather. "But their trap reveals them." Poirot examined the canister, finding a wire leading to a concealed switch near the heart-shaped tile. "The killer," he said, "is among us, and their hand is unsteady." He gathered the suspects again, his voice steady. "The gas confirms. The killer's fear. Let us reconstruct the murder. Sir Rowland stood here, lured by whispers of the chalice, amplified by the microphone. Cyanide, hidden in a drink or mist, ended him. The watcher Dunstan blood perhaps sought to keep the chalice hidden. Poirot's eyes locked on Vale. "Monsieur Vale, your Dunstan vow and poisoned cup are damning, but your warnings were protective." "None. The killer is another." He turned to Langston. "Monsieur Langston, your cipher decoded the chalice's location, but your greed betrayed you. You argued with Sir Rowland, wanting the chalice for fame. The microphone, your sketches, the poisoned cup, you rigged the gallery to silence him, then sabotaged us to bury the truth." Langston's face paled, his voice rising. "Lies! I'm a scholar, not a murderer." Poirot held up the cipher. "This grid, it matches your sketches. The poison in Vale's quarters was a diversion, planted to frame him. You, Langston, used the gallery's whispers to lure Sir Rowland, promising the chalice, then poisoned him with cyanide mist, hidden in a rigged candelabrum." The group gasped, and Langston bolted for the staircase, but Constable Harris, waiting below, seized him. "You're under arrest, Dr. Langston," Harris said, cuffing him. Poirot addressed the others. The Dunstan feud fueled Langston's greed. He sought the chalice for the British Museum, betraying Sir Rowland. The watcher's notes and feathers were Vale's warnings, not murder. Margaret wept, relieved. Rowland's curse is lifted. Vale nodded, his eyes softening. "My family's vow is honored." Wren scribbled furiously. "What a headline." Gray's prayers steadied. "The cathedral is at peace." In his room, Poirot spread the map fragments, brass key, raven feathers, coded scroll, silver pendant, journals, chalice, brass disc, microphone, coded letter, medallion, cipher, and notes, their clues now resolved. The chalice would be returned to the cathedral, its legacy cleansed. He penned a final note, closing the case. Langston's greed, Vale's protection, the gallery's deadly whispers. The chapter closed with Poirot standing in the nave, the chalice. In his hands, the cathedral's spires glowing in the moonlight. Langston's arrest and the cipher's decoding were triumphs, resolving the mystery. The gas trap in Vale's confession cleared the innocent, and Poirot's resolve shone, having silenced the whispers of St. Anselm's. Chapter 13. The Silent Choir. The autumn mist curled around the spires of St. Anselm's Cathedral in Eldermoor, its tendrils weaving through the Gothic arches as if guarding secrets older than the stones themselves. Hercule Poirot stood in the nave, his polished shoes gleaming against the mosaic floor, his green eyes sharp beneath the brim of his hat. The resolution of Sir Rowland Haverford's murder in the Whispering Gallery, the unmasking of Dr. Victor Langston, and the return of the Anselm chalice to the cathedral had restored a fragile peace. Yet Eldermoor's air carried a new unease. A cryptic note had arrived at Poirot's lodgings that morning, slipped under his door in an envelope sealed with a wax emblem of a lyre. Its message, in spidery script, read, "The choir sings no more, but its silence screams." Beside it lay a single white rose petal, its edges faintly curled, as if plucked in haste. Poirot's little gray cells throned, sensing a fresh mystery stirring in the cathedral's shadows. Captain Hastings, bundled in a woolen coat, joined him, his torch casting a golden glow across the nave's pillars. "Poirot, another note?" he said, his voice tinged with exasperation and curiosity. "We've only just put that chalice business to rest, and now this silent choir? Sounds like a poet's riddle, but after Langston's tricks, I'm expecting trouble." Poirot's mustache twitched, a spark of amusement in his gaze. "Trouble, mon ami? It follows Hercule Poirot like a shadow, but I am its master. The note, it speaks of the choir, and the pedal, it is a sign. We begin in the choir loft, where silence hides a scream. The choir loft was a vaulted chamber above the nave, its oak pews polished to a mirror-like sheen, its organ pipes gleaming like sentinels in the dim light. The cathedral's choir, renowned for its celestial harmonies, had been preparing for the feast of St. Anselm, but that morning the choirmaster, Mr. Felix Harrow, had been found dead in the loft, slumped over the organ, his fingers frozen on. The keys, the constable Harris, had ruled it a heart attack, but the note and pedal suggested otherwise. Poirot's torch swept the loft, noting the organ's keys, some faintly scratched, and a hymn book open to Lux Aeterna, its pages marked with a faint smudge of ink. "Voila!" Poirot murmured, his pulse quickening as he lifted the hymn book, revealing a hidden note tucked inside, its script matching the one from his lodgings. The silence conceals the sin. A second white rose petal lay beside it, its scent sharp and lingering. Hastings gasped, his torch trembling. "By Jove, Poirot!" Another note and another petal. "This isn't a heart attack. It's murder, isn't it?" "Murder, oui," Poirot sighed, pocketing the note and petal. "Mr. Harrow's death, it is no accident. The choir's silence, it screams of intent." The cathedral's denizens gathered in the nave, summoned by Poirot's request. Canon Edmund Gray stood by the altar, his tic more pronounced, his prayer beads clicking nervously. Lady Margaret Haverford, still mourning Sir Rowland, clutched a lace handkerchief, her eyes wary. Miss Sylvia Wren, the journalist, hovered with her notebook, her sharp gaze missing nothing. Mr. Thomas Vale, the verger, stood stoically, his Dunstan lineage a quiet shadow. A new figure, Miss Eleanor Finch, the choir's soprano, joined them, her auburn hair catching the light, her voice soft but strained as she spoke of Harrow's dedication. Poirot addressed them, his voice steady. "Mesdames et messieurs, the choirmaster's death is no natural passing. A note warns of a silent choir and a concealed sin, marked by a white rose petal. Who among you heard Mr. Harrow's final song?" Gray's voice trembled. "Felix was devout, practicing late for the feast. I heard the organ last night, and silence nothing unusual. Margaret's tone was soft. He was kind to me after Roland's death, offering hymns for solace. I saw him sketching in the loft yesterday." Wren's pencil scratched, her smirk. "Sly. Sketches make headlines, Lady Margaret. I heard Harrow arguing with someone in the cloisters, something about sacred notes. Care to comment?" Vale's voice was low but firm. "The loft is for worship, not gossip." Felix kept to himself. Finch's eyes glistened. He was like a father to the choir. He said the organ held secrets, but I thought it was his passion speaking. Poirot's instincts prickled Gray's nervousness, Margaret's veiled grief, Wren's probing, Vale's restraint, Finch's emotion. He led Hastings to the organ, examining its scratched keys. A faint residue, nearly invisible, coated one key, and Poirot's handkerchief revealed a bitter almond-scent cyanide echoing Sir Rowland's murder. "A poison, it returns," he murmured. Harrow was silenced, but why? As they searched, the loft, footsteps echoed, and Miss Finch appeared, her face pale. "Monsieur Poirot, You're investigating Felix's death? He was studying old hymnals, saying they hid a message. Did you find something? Poirot's gaze softened, but his tone was probing. Mademoiselle Finch, a note speaks of sin. Did Mr. Harrow share his discoveries? She hesitated, her voice trembling. He mentioned a lost hymn tied to the cathedral's history, but he wouldn't say more. Before Poirot could press further, a sudden groan echoed from the organ. Pipes and a heavy brass pipe dislodged, crashing toward the pews. Poirot pulled Hastings aside, the pipe splintering wood, sending dust billowing. His torch revealed fresh cuts on the pipe's mounting, evidence of sabotage, and a white rose petal lay in the debris, its sheen stark in the gloom. Good Lord, Poirot! Hastings gasped, coughing. That pipe nearly crushed us. Another petal, the Watcher's back. The Watcher, Poirot said, pocketing the petal. They silence the choir, but their fear betrays them. Poirot examined the pipe, finding a hidden wire rigged to release it, its ends freshly tampered with. Clever, he murmured, but not clever enough for Hercule Poirot. They descended to the nave, where Constable Harris awaited, his face grim. Monsieur Poirot, a pipe falling? This cathedral's turning deadly. A trap, monsieur. Harris, Poirot said, his tone calm but piercing. Mr. Harrow was poisoned, and someone seeks to stop us. Secure the loft, si vous plot. As Harris left, Wren approached, her notebook open. Monsieur Poirot, a falling pipe? My readers will devour this. I saw Harrow with a strange hymnal looked ancient. Found anything juicy? Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Juicy, Mademoiselle Wren? The truth is not a fruit. Your observations, did they include a light rose? Wren's smirk faltered. Maybe. I saw petals in the cloisters yesterday. I'm just an observer, Poirot. In the deanery's dining hall, the guests gathered for tea, the air thick with tension. Gray sat by the hearth, his prayers faltering. Margaret clutched her handkerchief, her grief heavy. Vale served tea, his eyes guarded. Finch hummed a soft hymn, her voice trembling. Wren scribbled, her gaze sharp. Poirot addressed them, holding up the note. Mesdames et messieurs, the choir's silence hides a sin, marked by a white rose petal. Mr. Harrow was poisoned, and a watcher strikes to bury the truth. Speak, if you wish to unburden your soul. Gray's tic worsened. Poison? This is sacrilege. Margaret's voice was soft. Felix helped me heal. He said the choir's hymns held secrets. Wren's pencil paused. Secrets sell papers. Lady Margaret. I heard Harrow muttering about a liar's truth. Vale's voice was firm. The cathedral deserves peace. Finch's eyes glistened. Felix loved the old hymns. He said they were sacred. Poirot's instincts prickled Gray's panic. Margaret's hints, Wren's probing, Vale's restraint, Finch's emotion. As tea ended, a faint creak echoed from the cloisters, and Poirot led Hastings to investigate, finding a loose stone in the wall, its edges chipped. Beneath it lay a folded note in the Watcher's script. The liar's song points to the crypt. A white rose petal rested beside it, its scent sharp. The crypt again, Hastings whispered. The Watcher's leading us back, Poirot. That note, liar's song, what's it mean? Leading, we? Poirot said, pocketing the note. And petal. The crypt holds the hymn's secret, and we shall follow. In his room, Poirot spread the notes, rose petals, and hymn book on a table, their clues intertwining. The choir's silence, the poison's echo, the Watcher's sabotage. The crypt, he suspected, held a clue to the lost hymn, perhaps tied to the liar emblem. He penned a note, listing the suspect's motives. Gray's secretive panic, Margaret's veiled grief, Wren's relentless curiosity, Vale's Dunstan restraint, Finch's emotional devotion. He followed Finch discreetly, watching as she lingered. In the nave, tracing a lyre-shaped carving with trembling fingers. Poirot whispered to Hastings, "Her devotion, it hides knowledge. We must probe the crypt to uncover her truth." The chapter closed with Poirot standing in the cloisters, the note in his hand, the cathedral's spires glowing in the twilight. The note's discovery and the pipe's sabotage were triumphs, marking progress in the new mystery. The liar's clue and Finch's emotional trace urged him toward the crypt, where the choir's silence awaited, and Poirot's resolve hardened, ready to unravel the whispers of St. Anselm's. Chapter 14. The crypt's melody. The morning mist clung to Eldermore's cobblestones, weaving a ghostly veil around the spires of St. Anselm's Cathedral, where Hercule Poirot stood in the cloisters, the watcher's note in his gloved hand. Its spidery script, the lyre's song, points to the crypt, etched beside a white rose petal, its scent sharp and fleeting. The murder of choirmaster Felix Harrow in the choir loft. The anonymous note warning of a silent choir, whose silence screams. The hymn book note. The silence conceals the sin. And the organ's poisoned key, laced with cyanide, had ignited a new mystery, distinct from the resolved Anselm chalice case. A falling organ pipe, rigged to kill, confirmed the watcher's desperate hand, while Canon Edmund Gray's nervous secrecy, Lady Margaret Haverford's veiled grief, Miss Sylvia Wren's probing curiosity, Mr. Thomas Vale's stoic restraint, and Miss Eleanor Finch's emotional devotion to the choir deepened Poirot's suspicions. The note's mention of the crypt and a lyre's song suggested a lost hymn tied to the cathedral's secrets, and Poirot's little gray cells thrummed, eager to unravel the melody hidden below Captain Hastings, clutching his torch against. The cathedral's chill stood beside him, his eyes tracing the cloister's ivy-covered arches. "Poirot, back to the crypt?" he said, his voice a mix of unease and curiosity. "After that organ pipe nearly flattened us, I'm expecting another trap. That note, lyre's song, do you think it's about a hymn Harrow found?" Poirot's mustache twitched, a spark of resolve in his green eyes. "The hymn, mon ami, is the key to this murder. The crypt, it holds the lyre's secret, and Hercule Poirot will make it sing. We descend with caution." The crypt's entrance was a stone archway behind the altar, its iron gate creaking as Poirot pushed it open, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. The air was damp and heavy, scented with earth and ancient stone, and Poirot's torch illuminated walls, etched with lyre motifs, their curves echoing the wax seal on the first note. Hastings followed, his torch casting shadows that danced like restless spirits, the faint echo of a distant hum lingering in the air. "By Jove, Poirot," Hastings whispered, his voice echoing in the stairwell. "That hum, it's like the cathedral singing. Do you think the hymn's down here?" Poirot paused, his ears straining as the hum grew clearer, a soft melody reminiscent of Lux Aeterna. "The crypt, it holds music, Hastings. The lyre's song, it guides us to Harrow's sin." The staircase opened into a vaulted chamber, its walls lined with stone sarcophagi, their lids carved with crosses and lyres. A stone altar stood at the center, its surface etched with a lyre entwined with roses, mirroring the petal's symbol. Poirot's torch swept the altar, noting a faint seam in its base. With a gentle press, a panel slid open, revealing a hidden niche containing a tattered hymnal, its cover embossed with a lyre, and the title Cantus Sanctus. Its pages, yellowed with age, held a handwritten hymn titled The Lyre's Lament, its lyrics in Latin: "In silentio peccatum celeter, lyra veritatem cantat." In silence the sin is concealed, the lyre sings the truth. Tucked inside was a silver lyre-shaped relic, its strings delicate but intact, its surface etched with a date, 1547. "Voila," Poirot murmured, his pulse quickening as he lifted the hymnal and relic. "The lyre's song, Hastings. This hymn, it is Harrow's discovery, and its sin led to his death. Hastings peered at the hymnal, his torch trembling. A lost hymn? And that relic looked at those strings. Do you think Harrow was killed? To keep this secret? Before Poirot could respond, footsteps echoed in the crypt, and Miss Eleanor Finch appeared, her auburn hair catching the torchlight, her face pale with alarm. Monsieur Poirot, she said, her voice trembling. You're in the crypt? Felix spoke of a hymn down here, said it was sacred. Have you found it? Poirot's gaze softened, but his tone was probing. Mademoiselle Finch, your devotion to Mr. Harrow is touching. He spoke of a lost hymn. Did he share its meaning? Finch's eyes glistened. He said it was a cathedral treasure, tied to a forgotten scandal. He was obsessed, practicing it on the organ. Obsessed, oui, Poirot said, slipping the hymnal into his coat. Return to the deanery, mademoiselle, and sing with care. As Finch retreated, her steps hurried, a sudden rumble shook the crypt, and a stone slab above the staircase groaned, threatening to collapse. Poirot pulled Hastings aside as the slab crashed, sealing the passage with a cloud of dust. His torch revealed fresh chisel marks on its supports, evidence of sabotage, and a white rose petal lay in the debris, its sheen stark in the gloom. Good Lord, Poirot! Hastings gasped, coughing. That slab nearly buried us. Another petal, the watchers at it again. Buried, we, Poirot said, pocketing the petal. The watcher fears the hymn's truth, but their fear betrays them. Poirot examined the slab, finding a hidden lever in a lyre-carved niche, its surface scratched as if recently used. With a pull, the slab shifted, revealing a narrow exit back to the nave. Quickly, mon ami, he said, leading the way. The crypt yields its melody, but danger follows. They emerged into the nave, where Canon Gray awaited, his face ashen with alarm. Monsieur Poirot, a crash in the crypt? This cathedral is cursed. Cursed, non, Poirot said, his tone calm, but piercing, guarded by one who fears exposure. The crypt reveals a hymn and a relic. Who knew of Harrow's search? Gray's tic worsened, his voice faltering. Felix was always in the archives, studying old music. I thought it was his passion. Passion, oui, Poirot said, noting Gray's unease. Yet it brought death. As Gray retreated, Miss Sylvia Wren approached, her notebook open, her eyes gleaming. Monsieur Poirot, a crypt adventure? My readers will love this. I saw Harrow with a lyre-shaped pendant last week looked ancient. Found anything juicy? Poirot's smile was enigmatic. Juicy, Mademoiselle Wren? The truth is not a fruit. Your sketches, did they include a lyre? Wren's smirk was sly. Maybe. Harrow was muttering about sacred songs. I'm just an observer, Poirot. In the deanery's dining hall, the guests gathered for dinner, the air thick with tension. Lady Margaret Haverford sat quietly, her grief a silent storm, while Mr. Thomas Vale served wine, his gray eyes unreadable. Canon Gray murmured prayers, his hands trembling, and Miss Finch hummed softly, her voice faltering. Poirot addressed them, holding up the lyre-shaped relic. Mesdames et messieurs, the crypt reveals a lost hymn and a relic, tied to Mr. Harrow's. Murder. Someone poisoned him to silence its truth, and they strike again to stop us. Speak, if you wish to unburden your soul. Gray's voice trembled. A hymn? This is sacrilege, Monsieur Poirot. Margaret's tone was soft. Felix played for me after Roland's death. He said the cathedral's music held secrets. Wren's pencil scratched. Secrets sell papers, Lady Margaret. I heard Harrow arguing about a liar's truth in the cloisters. Veils. Voice was firm. The cathedral deserves peace. Finch's eyes glistened. Felix loved that hymn. He said it was sacred. Poirot's instincts prickled Gray's panic. Margaret's hints, Wren's probing, Vale's restraint, Finch's devotion. As dinner ended, a faint hum echoed from the choir loft, and Poirot led Hastings to investigate, finding a loose panel behind the organ, its wood scratched. Beneath it lay a folded note in the watcher's script. The organ's heart sings. The sin. A white rose petal rested beside it, its scent sharp. The organ again, Hastings whispered. The watcher's pointing us back to the loft, Poirot. That note, organ's heart, what's it mean? Pointing, we, Poirot said, pocketing the note and petal. The organ holds the hymn's secret, and we shall make it sing. In his room, Poirot spread the notes, rose petals, hymn book, and lyre relic on a table, their clues intertwining. The choir's silence, the poison's echo, the crypt's hymn, the watcher's sabotage. A organ, he suspected, held a mechanism to play the lost hymn, perhaps revealing the scandal. He penned a note, updating the suspect's motives. Gray's secretive panic, Margaret's veiled grief, Wren's relentless curiosity, Vale's Dunstan restraint, Finch's emotional devotion. He followed Gray discreetly, watching as he lingered in the nave, tracing a lyre-shaped carving with trembling fingers. Poirot whispered to Hastings, "His fear, it hides knowledge. We must probe the organ to uncover his truth." The chapter closed with Poirot standing in the nave, the note in his hand, the cathedral's spires glowing in the morning light. The hymnal's discovery and the slab's sabotage were triumphs, marking progress in the mystery. The note and Gray's nervous trace urged him toward the organ loft, where the hymn's sin awaited, and Poirot's resolve hardened, ready to unravel the whispers of St. Anselm's.